इसकी एक कमेटी का गठन हुआ और आज की प्रेस वार्ता में प्रमुख बिंदु यही रहेगा, कितने बड़े भ्रष्टाचारी हैं अरविंद केजरीवाल जी और मनीष सिसोदिया। सिफारिश हो रही है क्या और नीति ला रहे हैं क्या। और चुनौती देके कहता हूं, अगले 24 घंटे में जो प्रश्न उठा रहे हैं हम लोग, जनता को यह जानने का हक है कि जो आबकारी नीति आप सिफारिशों को अनदेखा करके लाए, लूट खसोट मचाने के लिए आपने ऐसा क्यों किया। तो आबकारी नीति कहती है, सिफारिश जो हुई, इस कमेटी में वरिष्ठ लोग सम्मिलित थे। पहले मैं बताऊंगा कि कमेटी की सिफारिश क्या थी। कमेटी ने कहा जो होलसेल का ठेका होगा L1, यह सरकार अपने पास रखे। और मैं पढ़ रहा हूं 1.1.1 एक वाक्य, और अरविंद केजरीवाल का झूठ भी पकड़ा जाएगा और भ्रष्टाचार भी उजागर हो जाएगा। IMFL trade should be revamped by bringing the entire wholesale operations under one government entity. क्यों? जब सरकार की संस्था के तत्वाधान में होगा, पारदर्शिता भी रहेगी, घोटाला भी नहीं होगा, कार्टेल भी नहीं बनेगा, और जो मुनाफा होगा वो मुनाफा राजकीय कोष में आएगा, जनता के लिए लगेगा। लेकिन किया क्या? सिफारिश ये, और जो नीति आई, सरकार में रहते हुए ये पहले मुख्यमंत्री और उप मुख्यमंत्री मनीष सिसोदिया है जिनको सरकारी संस्थाओं से ही नफरत है। इन्होंने ये जो बड़ा कारोबार था, एक बड़ा घोटाला करने के लिए निजी लोगों को दे दिया। सरकार निजी, सरकार में पैसा जनता के पास, निजी में वापसी होके अरविंद केजरीवाल जी की तिजोरी में। सर्वोच्च न्यायालय का कानून है, एक्साइज एक्ट है, GNCTD एक्ट है। आपने इतना बड़ा उल्लंघन किया, जो सिफारिश थी उसका विपरीत करते हुए कोई टेंडर नहीं, कोई पब्लिक नोटिस नहीं। सर्वोच्च न्यायालय कहता है कि जो संसाधन सरकार के होंगे उसमें सम्मिलित होने का अवसर हर नागरिक को देना होगा। द स्टेट लार्जेस्ट has to be distributed in a manner which is most beneficial for the people of the country. अरविंद केजरीवाल जी, मुझे पता है आप ये प्रेस वार्ता देख रहे हैं, आप निरुत्तर हैं। जनता ये पूछ रही है आपने क्यों नहीं कोई पब्लिक नोटिस दिया। क्या यह वाजिब सवाल नहीं है? और सबसे बड़ी बात है, जो कमीशन था उसको बढ़ाकर 12% कर दिया गया निजी व्यक्ति को। क्यों? यह पॉलिसी का कागज है। मैं समझता हूं यह सिफारिश है, सरकार की संस्था निजी। आपने कोई पब्लिक नोटिस नहीं दिया, टेंडर नहीं निकाला, क्योंकि आप चाहते थे कुछ चुने हुए विशेष व्यक्ति जो कि आपकी तिजोरी भरे, उनको ही टेंडर दिया जाए। और सबसे बड़ी बात है, जब कमीशन 2% थी उसको 12% करा, तो ये जो राजस्व का नुकसान हुआ इसकी भरपाई कौन करेगा? कट्टर बेईमान सत्येंद्र जैन, मनीष सिसोदिया, अरविंद केजरीवाल जी, आप ये तो बता दीजिए। इसके बाद यह सिफारिश की गई है। दूसरा जो बड़ा मुद्दा आता है, एक लाइन पढ़ूंगा और इसलिए पढ़ूंगा कि जब भारतीय जनता पार्टी कोई बात रखती है तथ्यों के आधार पे, बड़ी ईमानदारी से, जनता की बुलंद आवाज बन के रखती है, और जो भ्रष्टाचारी होते हैं, अरविंद केजरीवाल जैसे लोग होते हैं, ये थरथर कांपते हैं। मैं प्रमाण लेके आया हूं, सिफारिश हुई कि जिन व्यक्ति को रिटेल वेंडिंग का ठेका जाएगा वो लॉटरी सिस्टम से जाएगा। देयर शुड बी अ न्यू लॉटरी, इट इज रिकमेंडेड। और इसकी वजह भी वही है, जब लॉटरी होगी तो भाग लेने वालों की संख्या ज्यादा होगी, ज्यादा राजस्व आएगा। लेकिन किया क्या गया, पूरे दिल्ली क्षेत्र को 32 जोन में बांटा गया, लॉटरी नहीं की गई, और 16 ऐसे शराब के कारोबारी जो कि इनके साथ मिली भगत में इनको रुपया देंगे, उनका चयन करके हर किसी को 2 जोन दे दिए गए। अब यह बड़ा चिंताजनक है कि आप अपनी आबकारी नीति जो बनाते हैं उसमें सरकार के जो नुमाइंदे हैं उनका विवेक जरूरी नहीं है। जिनको भ्रष्टाचार करना है वो बता रहे हैं कि आबकारी नीति में ये वाला क्लॉज हमें पसंद नहीं है, 30 करोड़ रुपए का जो जुर्माना है उसको माफ कर दीजिए, 144 करोड़ रुपए जो देने हैं सरकार को उसको माफ कर दीजिए। ये तभी होता है अरविंद केजरीवाल जी, जिसको जनता ने जिम्मेदारी दी हो ईमानदारी से जनता की सेवा करने के लिए, वो खुद बेईमान हो जाए। और तीसरी बड़ी बात, ये बहुत अहम है, ये स्पष्ट था सिफारिशों में कि 10% जो है वो लाइसेंस फीस को बढ़ाया जाएगा रिन्यूअल पे। यहां पे और बड़ी एक लूट हुई। सिफारिश को आबकारी नीति में लाया गया और लिखा गया add 10% to account for year on year growth 10% of clause 6 में जो है उन्होंने बताया कैसे रेवेन्यू होगा, और इसके साथ उन्होंने कहा कि 10% बढ़नी चाहिए। लेकिन जब इसको लागू करने की बात आई, दबाव में आते हुए कहीं हमारी ये काली कमाई रुक ना जाए, ये 10% जो है वो लिया ही नहीं गया। इससे अनुमान है ये करीब 900 करोड़ रुपए का नुकसान राजस्व को हुआ है। 900 करोड़ रुपए केवल इस 10% जो बढ़ोतरी होनी थी रिन्यूअल पे फीस में, वो ना लेने से। अब ये सारी बातें कहते हुए मैं इतना ही कहूंगा, जैसा हमने कल भी कहा था, मनीष सिसोदिया जी कह रहे हैं 1 करोड़ का जो नंबर है वो एफआईआर में लिखा है। 1 करोड़ हो या 900 करोड़ हो या 9000 करोड़ हो या इससे भी ज्यादा बढ़कर हो, ये तो विवेचना का विषय है। दूध का दूध और पानी का पानी हो जाएगा। सच्चाई सामने आएगी। और मनीष सिसोदिया जी, आप कहते हैं मैं झुकूंगा नहीं, अरविंद केजरीवाल जी सर्टिफिकेट देते हैं, ये कट्टर ईमानदार हैं। ये बात अलग है कि आजकल जिसको कट्टर ईमानदारी का सर्टिफिकेट अगर अरविंद केजरीवाल दे देते हैं तो वो जेल की सलाखों के पीछे जरूर जाता है। और ये भी बात स्पष्ट कर दें, अगर विवेचना पूरी तरह से हुई, सामने आई और आपका भ्रष्टाचार सामने आया, तो आप कानून के सामने झुकेंगे भी और आपका भ्रष्टाचार रुकेगा भी। गलतफहमी में मत रहिएगा। कानून और जांच एजेंसी अपना काम करेंगी, पूरी तत्परता से कर रही हैं। मैं 24 घंटे पुनः भारतीय जनता पार्टी की तरफ से आपको देता हूं इस चुनौती के साथ कि अगर आप कट्टर ईमानदार हैं, जैसा आप अपने आप को प्रमाणित करते हैं, बाहर निकलकर आइए और जो सवाल जनता के हैं उनका उत्तर जरूर दीजिए। और अगर आपको लगता है इन सभी गंभीर आरोपों का उत्तर न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स का आर्टिकल है और इश्तिहार का बजट बढ़ाकर टिम्बकटू टाइम्स में भी आप एक इश्तिहार दे के बच जाएंगे, तो ऐसा होने वाला नहीं है। सत्य बाहर आएगा जरूर। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मैं प्रेम जी से कहूंगा कि आगे की कार्रवाई करें।
आदरणीय रमेश बिदुल जी से आग्रह है कि आपको संबोधित करें।
मैं सभी का स्वागत पुनः एक बार करते हुए, गौरव जी ने जैसे कहा है, केवल उन तथ्यों की तरफ ध्यान ले जाना चाहता हूं कि जिन तथ्यों के आधार पर वो बार बार चीज को डाइवर्ट करके और विषय से भटकाना चाहते हैं। गलत स्टेटमेंट देकर, गलत फिट करने के बाद वो सोचते हैं कि दिल्ली वासियों का, देशवासियों का ध्यान डाइवर्ट हो जाएगा। क्या कह रहे होंगे वो लोग 80% जो कांग्रेस के भ्रष्टाचार से, 2G स्पेक्ट्रम से लेकर कोयल घोटाले से लेकर देश को बर्बाद किया 10 साल में कांग्रेस ने, उससे त्रस्त होकर लोग इनके ऊपर विश्वास करके इनके साथ लगे थे। उनकी आत्मा रो रही है। उन्होंने सरदार भगत सिंह, राजगुरु सुखदेव जी की तरह प्रधानमंत्री नहीं बनना था। उन्होंने देश से दीमक की तरह चाटने वाले भ्रष्टाचारी कांग्रेस को हटाकर इनके ऊपर विश्वास करके इनको दिल्ली का मुख्यमंत्री बनाने की पहल दिल्ली के लोगों ने की थी। क्या उनकी आत्मा रो रही होगी अब कि जिनको इनकी तरह मुख्यमंत्री, मंत्री नहीं बनना था, सत्ता के लिए किसी स्तर तक भी जा सकते हैं, कभी सोचा नहीं होगा। वो आज लोग निश्चित रूप से इस बात को लेकर बहुत प्रताड़ित हो रहे होंगे कि विषय को बार बार, भ्रष्टाचार के नाम से आने वाला व्यक्ति विषय को बार बार इधर उधर करने के बाद अपने रफूगरों को सामने एक स्क्रिप्ट लिखकर और टेलीविजन के ऊपर रोज 2-3 रफूगर बैठ जाते हैं जो रफूगरी करनी शुरू कर देते हैं। कौन बीजेपी में आ रहा है, कौन बीजेपी से जा रहा है। अरे भाई, इधर उधर की बात ना करो। ये बताइए कि आपने जो कहा अभी गौरव जी ने, जैसे कि 1 करोड़ की बात हुई थी, कोई 8 करोड़ कह रहा है, 1100 करोड़ कह रहा है। आप उसमें प्राइमा फेसी पहले अभियुक्त है एफआईआर के अंदर। 15 लोगों का लेन देन, आप 15 लोग और एफआईआर में हैं। आपने जो ये अपनी जो कमेटी की रिपोर्ट आई थी, जो आपने लीकर पॉलिसी बनाई थी, उस पॉलिसी में यह भी विषय शामिल था जिसको आप खाने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं। ये क्यों नहीं हुआ? आपने कहा हम इंडिविजुअल लोगों को लॉटरी के सिस्टम से द ओनली इंडिविजुअल कैन अप्लाई फॉर द लाइसेंस। तो आपने कार्टल और इन बड़े बड़े लोगों को, इन कंपनियों को, भगवती ट्रांसपोर्ट, नोवा गारमेंट, पाथवे टू HR सॉल्यूशन, इन लोगों को जो देने का काम किया, तो आपने जो लोगों को कहा कि जो पब्लिक मुझे अपना रेफरेंडम देकर कहेगी मैं वो काम करूंगा। कमेटी ने रिपोर्ट दी। कमेटी की रिपोर्ट को धत्ता बताते हुए आपकी क्या रिश्तेदारी हो गई? पूछना चाहते हैं आपसे अरोड़ा बंधुओं से? क्या रिश्तेदारी हो गई आपकी विजय नायर जी से? क्या रिश्तेदारी हो गई आपकी अर्जुन पांडे जी से? कि जिन लोगों के साथ ओबराय में बैठकर डिप्टी चीफ मिनिस्टर अपने दफ्तर में ना बुलाकर उनको नवाजा जा रहा था, ओबराय में डील की जा रही थी। 32 जो जोन थे, हर जोन के अंदर हर जोन के देने वाले व्यक्ति को जो 2-2 जोन के कॉन्ट्रैक्ट दिए गए, उनसे सीधा 3-3 करोड़ रुपया आपने लिया नहीं लिया? ये बताइए क्या रिश्तेदारी थी उन जोन के 16 जोनों से? और उसके बाद जो दुकानदार थे, उन दुकानदार से, जो रिटेल के दुकानदार है, जब सीबीआई गहराई में जाएगी और पूछेगी तो जो रिटेल के दुकानदार जिस जोन में अलग दुकानदार थे, क्या आपके मनीष सिसोदिया जी ने आपसे केजरीवाल साहब बात करके ये तय नहीं किया था कि हर दुकानदार 2.5 लाख रुपए महीने हमको देगा, इसलिए हमने उनका कमीशन 2% से बढ़ाकर 12% कर दिया गया है? वो दुकानदार भी सामने आएंगे जिन लोगों से आपने 2.5 लाख रुपए मंथली के लेने तय किए थे अपने अरोड़ा बंधु एंड कंपनी से इकट्ठे करवाने के बाद। आपसे मैं ये पूछना चाहते हैं हम केजरीवाल साहब से, जवाब उनके पास होता नहीं है। डाइवर्ट करने की बात आप कह रहे हैं कि बार बार ये पॉलिसी बहुत अच्छी थी, बहुत अच्छी थी। अब पूरा देश जान चुका है, आपके फॉलोअर भी जान चुके हैं कि जब अच्छी पॉलिसी थी तो आपने इसको विड्रॉ क्यों किया, जो बार बार।
All right, so that's the press conference of Delhi happening, and meanwhile simultaneously we also have protests which are happening at the residence of Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. These protests are done by the BJP workers. Anvit is at the spot right now. Anvit, what's happening there? Tell us more.
Yeah, see, as you can see, Adesh Gupta was being detained just a short while ago, and he has been taken away from this protest side. He was at the barricades. The protesters finally managed to break the barricades and cross over to the other side where the police had made elaborate arrangements. A short while ago, effigies of Arvind Kejriwal along with Satyen Jain and Sisodia were also set afire by the protesters here. We are just a short distance away from Kejriwal's house because the police have barricaded the entire area. The protesters are not being allowed to go to the other side, but as you can see, they are still trying to cross over the second layer of barricades. One layer was already pulled down by the protesters, and now they've reached the second layer, after which is placed a water cannon, and we'll see if the protesters continue to protest this way. Will the police be using water cannons or not?
Anvit, is the situation under control right now? Because you're seeing there were certain BJP leaders who were detained by the police authorities. I can see the workers trying to cross the barricades. Tell us about the larger control of the situation on the ground.
See, a short while ago, Ramveer Singh Biduri was also here, and along with him, Adesh Gupta was also here. Both the leaders were here. They had led the protest, and both of them have been taken away, and they have been detained. The protesters, however, continue to be here, and as you can see, there are vehicles of police lined up, and the buses are lined up in which the protesters will be taken. Senior officials of the deputy commissioner level have also now reached the spot because the protesters have managed to cross the first layer of barricades, and now they have reached up to the second layer. Now, if they manage to cross this layer, Anusha, there is no other layer of police up till Kejriwal's residence. So the protesters will manage to reach CM's house. The only third layer of barricades and police are at the CM's residence. So if they cross over, then they'll be stopped at the residence till where they had planned earlier to march. Also, they have burnt effigies. They have been demanding since the beginning that Sisodia must be suspended from his position as a minister after this entire excise policy drama came out. And on Friday, as we know, how CBI raided multiple locations in Delhi in the related case.
Anvit, these political optics, of course, are crucial for any political party, especially in the heat and the face of that Aam Aadmi Party and BJP are involved in right now. But I wonder, is the Delhi Chief Minister present at his residence right now? Is he in Delhi at all? Because both Sisodia and Kejriwal are scheduled to visit Gujarat.
Yeah, see, as of now, we are here, and we went earlier in the morning when we went there, the security arrangements were heavy. The officials outside his residence did not confirm whether he is at house or not. But the arrangement that the police have made were elaborate even at that place. And when this place where we are right now is hardly a kilometer and a half away from CM's residence, and now we can see how the protesters have managed to gather in large number and Also, if we talk to some of the protesters, and we'd like to take some reactions. तो मैम आप लोग इधर बड़े उसमें गैदर हुए हैं, क्या डिमांड्स हैं अभी बीजेपी के?
हमारी यही डिमांड है, जो केजरीवाल ने दिल्ली को एक शराब की नगरी बना दिया है, उसी के खिलाफ हमारा ये आंदोलन चल रहा है। जो केजरीवाल जगह जगह शराब के ठेके खोल रहे हैं, युवाओं की भविष्य खराब कर रहे हैं, तो केजरीवाल का ये पुतला जलाया गया, उससे ये साबित करना चाहते हैं कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी दिल्ली को कभी भी शराब की नगरी नहीं बनने देगी।
क्या डिमांड है? अभी आप लोग कुछ देर पहले आप लोगों ने बॉर्डर ये बैरिकेड्स वगैरह फांदे थे, क्या डिमांड कर रहे हैं अभी?
हमारी डिमांड ये है कि मनीष सिसोदिया ने जो शराब के ठेके खुले थे, उसमें जो इन्होंने भ्रष्टाचार किया है, जो पैसे लूटे हैं कई हजार करोड़, उसी को ये जेल में जाएं और वो उजागर हो कि किन किन माफियाओं से कितने पैसे लिए इन्होंने।
So basically the demand exactly is to send Sisodia, and they are saying that Sisodia must be jailed, and this is what the demands are since the beginning. Also when Adesh Gupta was here speaking and Ramveer Singh Biduri, when they were speaking and addressing the crowd, they were also saying that Sisodia, they demand immediate suspension of him as a minister, and they want to see him jailed.
Anvit, this is clearly an assertion of the BJP on the ground, not just through the press conferences but through these dharnas. They also want to keep up that political pressure on the Aam Aadmi Party. Are there any further protests which are planned in the city in the next few days? And speaking of today, how long is this protest allowed? Was there any permission that was taken by the police?
See, as we have spoken to senior police officials, they have said that there was no permission taken, and that is the reason why such an elaborate arrangement was made by the police, because there was no permission taken from the police, and police had clearly told them that if they protest, then they'll all be detained, and that is what is exactly happening right now. And Adesh Gupta and some senior leaders have already been detained, and we'd like to bring some visuals in, and I will show how all of them have been put into this bus and they are being taken away. You can see Adesh Gupta there, Ramveer Singh Biduri, and the police are now trying to take them away.
मनीष सिसोदिया कट्टर चोर। मनीष सिसोदिया को इस्तीफे को लेकर भ्रष्टाचारी मनीष सिसोदिया, जिसने दिल्ली को शराब की नगरी बना दिया, आज उसके इस्तीफे को लेकर एक प्रदर्शन हुआ और उसी प्रदर्शन के अंतर्गत हम सब लोग जो है गिरफ्तारी दे रहे हैं। जब तक मनीष सिसोदिया का इस्तीफा नहीं होगा, तब तक यह आंदोलन जारी रहेगा।
लगेगा केजरीवाल और उसकी कैबिनेट को, जिनकी बद्दुआ लगेगी देखना, जिनके बच्चों की बर्बादी हुई है वो बद्दुआ।
So Ramveer Singh Biduri and Adesh Gupta were there. They have all been detained. At least 70 to 80 persons have been detained. Another bus, as you can see here, is ready to leave. This entire protest that that took place today has also forced senior police officials to be on ground. At least Deputy Commissioner level is Deputy Commissioner of Police is right here, and we will try
Right,
to
Anvit.
him right now.
Right, BJP does seem to be upping the ante there, Anvit. Okay.
यहाँ पीसफुल है, सभी डिस्पर्सल हो गया है, कुछ लोगों को अभी डिटेन किया है।
So some of the people have been detained. This was Deputy Commissioner of Police Sagar Singh Kalsi North, who told us that some of the officers have been detained, and now the protest seems to have been quiet now.
All right, Anvit, the protest scenes really showed, we can actually see the difference from the right side of the screen to the left now. A lot of those BJP workers and leaders have now been detained. BJP there upping the ante against this entire alleged Liquorgate saga. Stay on with me, Anvit. I'm also now joined by RP Singh of the BJP. Mr. Singh, the fact that BJP is not leaving any stone unturned to actually register their protests, whether it is on ground or by way of these press briefings. We just heard Mr. Gaurav Bhatia really speak very pointed rebuttals to all the charges that they are actually trading against the Aam Aadmi Party. Your first reactions of the big claim that's been made by Mr. Manish Sisodia, saying that BJP was the one who'd approached him to go ahead and join the party.
Well, there's a diversion technique which Mr. Sisodia and his party is using every day. Yesterday it was the lookout notice, which Mr. Sisodia tweeted at 9:15, no one else. And by evening they said there's no lookout notice, it's all falsehood. I mean, they start with a falsehood, and then they themselves say that, it has all been done by the BJP. Same is here. They are saying that BJP has approached him. I'll appreciate if you have any document evidence or any phone record, anything on there on record, or the person who has approached him, let him name the person. But fact is that people they are not answering the people's question. The question is whether they did a scam of 144.36 crore and 30 crore or not. That's the basic issue. Whether they gave favor to their friends, जिसको हिंदी में रेवड़ी बांटना कहते हैं, to the friends of 144.3.6 crore. Although they say it was because of corona factors that corona ended in March and the policy started in November. So this all built up, and then 30 crore rupees, which was L1 in earnest money, which was returned back to a person. So obviously, how do you do favor in political system and then make build your accounts and then distribute revenues?
All right. Mr. Singh, stay on with me. I'm also now joined on the broadcast by Ms. Alka Lamba of the Congress Party. Ms. Lamba, first of all, protests there on ground by BJP workers, some of them even quoting arrests. However, there is a different story playing out in Gujarat. We are seeing protests in favor of Manisha Sisodia.
देखिए, मनीष सिसोदिया जी का अभी ट्वीट मैंने देखा है। जो भ्रष्टाचार की बात करते थे, भगत सिंह जी की पंजाब में बात करते थे, आज गुजरात में अपने आप को राजपूत बता रहे हैं। ये राजनीति बदलने आए थे, जाति पर उतर आए हैं, है ना। और मनीष सिसोदिया जी का ट्वीट देखा है कि भाजपा ने किस माध्यम से और किस नेता ने आपको फोन किया है, मैसेज किया है, मुलाकात की है, वो खुलासा करें। ये सब बातें कह के आप दिल्ली देश को अपना जो भ्रष्टाचार है, शराब नीति पे भटका नहीं सकते हैं। मनीष सिसोदिया जी को कांग्रेस चुनौती देती है, किस भाजपा नेता ने आपको फोन किया, उसका नंबर क्या है, मेल किया, फोन किया, किसी आदमी के जरिए आपको भाजपा में जाने का संपर्क किया है ना, वो बताएं। किसी मुद्दे से सिर्फ भटकाया जा रहा है और इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं। भाजपा बिल्कुल या तो लोगों को डराती है, धमकाती है, पैसे से खरीदती है, ईडी से डराती है और भाजपा में शामिल करती आई है। मुझे लग रहा है इसी बात का फायदा आज मनीष सिसोदिया भी उठा रहे हैं। संपर्क किया नहीं किया ये भाजपा जानती है, ये मनीष सिसोदिया जी जानते हैं, है ना। लेकिन बात ये मुद्दे से भटकाया जा रहा है। सीबीआई की बिल्कुल लुकआउट नोटिस, मतलब इन पर नजर बनी रहेगी। ये हमारी भी एक तसल्ली की बात है कि 12 एक्यूज जो है वो देश छोड़कर भागने की फिराक में हो सकते हैं, इसलिए लुकआउट नोटिस से ये तसल्ली है कि इन पर नजर रहेगी। इनके पासपोर्ट, मुझे नहीं मालूम मनीष सिसोदिया जी का पासपोर्ट जब्त किया गया या 12 लोगों का किया गया, नहीं। इनके पासपोर्ट जब्त होनी चाहिए और कार्रवाई में देर नहीं होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि सबूतों के साथ छेड़छाड़ की जा रही है। जिन लोगों ने ठेके दिए, लाइसेंस फीस माफ करके 144 करोड़ का चूना लगाया है, उन सब लोगों से संपर्क किया जा रहा है कहीं ना कहीं, है ना। तो मुझे लगता है इसमें देरी नहीं होनी चाहिए। कांग्रेस मांग करती है, थोड़ी भी नैतिकता अभी भी बची है जो दिख नहीं रही। केजरीवाल जी को अपने मंत्री सत्येंद्र जैन, मनीष सिसोदिया का तुरंत इस्तीफा लेकर इन्हें जो है।
अलका जी, एक्यूजेशंस आपकी पार्टी को लेके भी आ रहे हैं, जो आपकी पार्टी को भी चुनौती दी जा रही है, क्योंकि ये जो ईडी सीबीआई है वो आपकी पार्टी के वर्कर्स, आपके पार्टी के लीडर्स के अगेंस्ट भी आई थी। उस समय कांग्रेस ने ये साफ कहा था कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज को मिसयूज कर रहा है, लेकिन अभी आप क्योंकि आम आदमी पार्टी के बिल्कुल ही अगेंस्ट खड़े हैं, तो चाहे वो उमर अब्दुल्ला हो, महबूबा मुफ्ती हो, सभी लोग आप लोगों को अक्यूज कर रहे हैं कि व्हाई इज द ऑपोजिशन नॉट स्टैंडिंग टुगेदर इन द वेक ऑफ अनदर रेड बाय द ईडी एंड सीबीआई।
बताइए, आपके खिलाफ कार्रवाई होगी और आपका परिवार अगर सोचेगा कार्रवाई गलत है, आपका परिवार आपके साथ खड़ा रहेगा या नहीं खड़ा रहेगा। इसी तरह हम कांग्रेस नेतृत्व के साथ खड़े हैं।
Alka ji, I'm sorry, I'd have to interrupt you there. Let me cut across to Saurabh Bhardwaj and see what he is saying on all the charges.
अंदर हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा कांग्रेस में हुआ करते थे। इन्होंने उनके खिलाफ एक सस्टेन्ड भ्रष्टाचार का कैंपेन चलाया। हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा के खिलाफ इन्होंने भ्रष्टाचार की एक बुकलेट रिलीज की, जिसमें उन्होंने बताया कि कैसे हेमंत बिस्व शर्मा ने वाटर स्कैम किया है। पूरी कैंपेन उनके ऊपर आधारित थी और उसके बाद उनको इन्होंने भारतीय जनता पार्टी में ले लिया और फिर आज की तारीख में वो इनके मुख्यमंत्री हैं आसाम में। मुकुल रॉय के खिलाफ, शुभेंदु अधिकारी के खिलाफ, शारदा चिट स्कैम का जो पूरा का पूरा नैरेटिव था, बीजेपी ने कम से कम 6 से 10 महीने चलाया। सेंट्रल लीडरशिप शारदा स्कैम के नाम पर इन दोनों नेताओं पे तंज कसती थी। बाद में इन्हीं दोनों नेताओं को उन्होंने अपनी भारतीय जनता पार्टी में ले लिया और उसके बाद इनकी जो जांच होती है वो ठंडे बस्ते के अंदर चली जाती है। इस तरीके से पेमा खुंडू के साथ में हम देख रहे हैं, इसी की तरह से अनिल शर्मा हिमाचल में हमने देखा, इसी तरीके से नारायण राणे महाराष्ट्र के अंदर, उनके ऊपर भी मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग के केस हुए। लैंड स्कैम के केसेस हुए और जब वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी में आ गए तो वो ठंडे बस्ते में चले गए। विजयंत जय पांडा, पुरुषोत्तम सबारिया और इस तरीके के तमाम नाम हैं जिनके खिलाफ भारतीय जनता पार्टी एक कैंपेन चलाती है और फिर उनको भारतीय जनता पार्टी में लाने के बाद उनके ऊपर सारे मुकदमे जो हैं ठंडे बस्ते में चले जाते हैं। आज जो मनीष सिसोदिया जी के साथ हो रहा है वो तो ये है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी ये कह रही है उनसे कि हमारे पास केजरीवाल जी के मुकाबले कोई दिल्ली में नेता नहीं है। हमने कई नेता ट्राई किए, मनोज तिवारी से लेकर हर्षवर्धन तक, ये आदेश गुप्ता से लेकर कई लोग जो हैं उन्होंने बदले, बट उनके कद का कोई नेता उनके पास नहीं है। मनीष जी को ये ऑफर है भारतीय जनता पार्टी का कि आप हमारी तरफ आ जाइए, आपको मुख्यमंत्री उम्मीदवार बनाएगी भारतीय जनता पार्टी। और मनीष जी ने उनको जवाब दिया है कि मेरे नाम के साथ ये जो सिसोदिया शब्द है ये महाराणा प्रताप से आता है। हम महाराणा प्रताप के वंशज हैं, हम राजपूत अपनी सर कटा सकते हैं मगर हम गद्दारी नहीं करेंगे और भारतीय जनता पार्टी जैसी भ्रष्टाचारी और देश की दुश्मन पार्टी के साथ मैं नहीं जाऊंगा।
Getting you some more breaking news inputs now. Now remember, BJP had leveled allegations against KCR's daughter Kavitha on her involvement in this entire Liquorgate. Now she seems to have responded on these allegations and on her role in the Delhi liquor scam. She said that BJP is trying to malign the image of her family.
Today I want to make it very, very clear that the allegations that are made on me by BJP party and their party people are completely baseless. The allegations will certainly remain an allegations. They have all the agencies in their hands. They can do whatever investigation that is required. We will completely cooperate. I believe, we believe, and today people of Telangana believe that rattled by the allegations made by Honorable CM, the Bharatiya Janata Party is trying to malign the reputation of our family. I just want to say this to the nation today. We are the family of fighters. We fought for Telangana. We were on the streets. We were with the people. We never go back in a fight.
That was KCR's daughter Kavitha really taking on all the allegations that have been leveled against her by the Bharatiya Janata Party, claiming that she in turn was also involved in the Delhi Liquorgate saga. Now she's come out in the open and denied, refuted all these charges and also in turn blamed the BJP that the party is trying to malign her family's image. Remember, Kavitha is the daughter of K. Chandrasekhar Rao and she's a TRS MLC herself. She, in fact, her name was the one that propped up during this press conference that was done by the BJP yesterday, where they had actually went ahead and claimed that she was involved in money that exchanged hands when it comes to this entire liquor gate in the national capital, which is to do with the new liquor excise policy in Delhi, under which Manisha Sisodia, the Delhi Deputy Chief Minister, has been raided by the CBI, and there are lookout circulars for 8 of the Aam Aadmi Party and other associates of Manisha Sisodia in this particular case. Right now, Manisha Sisodia, along with his Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, is in Gujarat. They are going to be organizing a press conference very, very soon. However, we are staying on with this particular story where Kavitha has come out in the open and lashed out at the BJP. Now, I have on the broadcast Mr. Krishank Mane of the TRS. Mr. Mane, now that Kavitha has also come out, accused the BJP in turn on maligning the image of her family, your first responses as a TRS member?
Absolutely. Kavitha ji has made it very clear that she has nothing to do with the Delhi's excise policy or whatever is coming out in news by the Bharatiya Janata Party. But one thing is understood, that Bharatiya Janata Party is running and guiding the ED, because ED has not given any summons, ED has not named anything, or Honorable Supreme Court or any legal institutions have not named. Then how can Bharatiya Janata Party name someone, and tomorrow if ED will act, it is understood that it is absolutely politically motivated. Who is Bharatiya Janata Party to throw mud at? Are they any legal institution? Are they any investigation agency? How are they getting names? How do they have any evidences if they have any? These things Bharatiya Janata Party has to answer. This is definitely a ploy by none other than Modi ji, because KCR ji has been questioning the Modi government over their policies, failed policies. Kavitha ji also has raised this issue. So it is a direct attack on the government of Telangana, which has been questioning Modi ji, Amit Shah ji directly. So that is why they are just throwing mud at it. Kavitha ji or anyone from the TRS party has nothing to do at all. We are ready for any kind of ED raid, IT raid, CBI. KCR ji has announced that he is not afraid of Modi ji's puppets, which these investigation agencies are.
Right.
So,
Prishank, you know, when K. Kavitha's name really had come up, it was something that had piqued a lot of curiosity. How suddenly, out of the blue, they are naming a TRS MLC in this entire Liquorgate saga, which is to do with the national capital. Do you question the timing? At the time when Home Minister Amit Shah was visiting Telangana, we also see a charge directly at the TRS when it comes to the Liquorgate.
Well, from couple of months, there has been attack on the government of Telangana. Amit Shah ji was visiting yesterday because they feel that by attacking the government of Telangana, we'll be in defense or with the coming by-election. And that is why they have crucially named. Earlier, this modus operandi has been earlier done by Bharatiya Janata Party. Earlier, Kanimoli ji, she got a clean sheet. Bharatiya Janata Party accused her. What happened? The 1,70,000 crore 2G, so-called 2G scam. What happened regarding that? Vinod Rai changed his statement. Today also, Bharatiya Janata Party says scams, ED raids. They're using it only for political benefits. But nothing is true at all. So definitely Bharatiya Janata Party, who have come up and kept a press conference, they have to prove their allegations. Otherwise, it will definitely be the ulterior motive of none other than the Prime Minister, who was the head of the BJP. The Modi government itself has to take the blame. That how is Bharatiya Janata Party coming up with name calling?
Right, Prishank, but I'd still like you to take the first part of my question, because it was a curious naming of K. Kavitha. How did her name suddenly spring up? You know, what is the association? The
reason is in the very same hotel which they've been naming, Kavitha ji has done meetings with many media institutions. When KCR ji was protesting recently, when we are taking up this national politics turn, Kavitha ji was doing meetings with many media channels and media heads and reporters. So they have tried to link all this to Delhi excise policy, because there Aam Aadmi Party has been fighting with them. Here TRS party has been fighting with them. So that is why they have brought out with this name. Kavitha ji herself has made it very clear that it has nothing to do with it.
I'm afraid I'll have to just interrupt you there. Let me cut across to Atishi Marlena, who is presiding over a press conference of the Aam Aadmi Party at the moment.
महंगाई है, बेरोजगारी है, डॉलर का दाम, पेट्रोल का दाम, हर चीज बढ़ती जा रही है। तो प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ऐसी पॉलिसी बनाएंगे, ऐसे सॉल्यूशंस निकालेंगे कि देश की इन समस्याओं का समाधान हो सके, लोग अपनी परेशानियों से बाहर निकल सके, कि भारत देश का विकास हो सके। लेकिन आज देश के प्रधानमंत्री आदरणीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी क्या कर रहे हैं? उनका ध्यान क्या महंगाई पर है? उनका ध्यान का बेरोजगारी और शिक्षा और स्वास्थ्य की व्यवस्था पर है? नहीं, उनका ध्यान सिर्फ एक और एक चीज पर है कि कैसे जो उनकी विरोधी पार्टियां हैं, जो दूसरे दल की राज्य सरकारें हैं, उनको साम दाम दंड भेद से कैसे गिराया जाए। हम ये देश भर में देख रहे हैं कि किस तरह से अभी महाराष्ट्र में हमने देखा कि शिवसेना को तोड़कर भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने कैसे सरकार बनाई। हमने उससे पहले गोवा में देखा, कर्नाटका में देखा, मणिपुर में देखा, राज्य दर राज्य में हमने देखा कि किस तरह पार्टियों को तोड़ तोड़कर भारतीय जनता पार्टी अपनी सरकारें बनाने की कोशिश करती है। क्या है भारतीय जनता पार्टी का और प्रधानमंत्री जी का मोडस ऑपरेंडी? क्या है उनका सरकार तोड़ने का तरीका? उनका सरकार तोड़ने का सबसे बड़ा हथियार है उनकी केंद्र सरकार की एजेंसियां। तो क्या फॉर्मूला फॉलो करते हैं प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी? क्या फॉर्मूला फॉलो करती है उनकी केंद्र सरकार? फॉर्मूला बहुत सिंपल है। जिस पार्टी को तोड़ना है, जिस सरकार को तोड़ना है, जिन नेताओं को तोड़ना है, सबसे पहले उन पर केंद्र सरकार की अलग अलग एजेंसियों को छोड़ दो। उनके ऊपर सीबीआई का केस करो, उनके ऊपर ईडी का केस करो, उनके ऊपर इनकम टैक्स का केस करो, जो भी सरकारी एजेंसी आपके पास है उनका केस करो। उसके बाद भारतीय जनता पार्टी जाके उनके नेताओं को ऑफर देती है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी में आ जाओ, सारे केस बंद हो जाएंगे। तो एक तरफ धमकाया जाता है और दूसरी तरफ लुभाने का प्रयास किया जाता है। हमने देखा कि किस तरह महाराष्ट्र में भी यही हुआ कि महाराष्ट्र की रूलिंग कोalition के अलग अलग नेताओं पर सीबीआई के, ईडी के तरह तरह के केस हुए और फिर उन केस की धमकियों को यूज करके शिवसेना के विधायकों को तोड़कर एक नई सरकार बना दी गई, जिसमें एक शिवसेना के फॉर्मर एमएलए अब चीफ मिनिस्टर बन गए। दिल्ली में भी आज यही करने की कोशिश करी जा रही है। जो ये केस दिल्ली के उप मुख्यमंत्री मनीष सिसोदिया जी पर हो रहा है, ये भी एक कोशिश है आम आदमी पार्टी की अरविंद केजरीवाल जी की सरकार को तोड़ने की। मनीष सिसोदिया जी पर सीबीआई का केस होता है, 14 घंटे की रेड होती है। उस रेड में कुछ नहीं मिलता, लेकिन फिर भी अगले दिन खबर प्लांट हो जाती है कि अब जैसे सीबीआई ने एफआईआर करी है, अब ईडी को केस दिया जाएगा और ईडी का भी केस चालू होगा। जैसे ही सीबीआई की एफआईआर की, ईडी की एफआईआर की एक तरह से धमकियां आती हैं, दूसरी तरफ भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नेता मनीष सिसोदिया जी को अप्रोच करते हैं और अप्रोच करके कहते हैं कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी में आ जाओ, भारतीय जनता पार्टी में आ जाओगे तो सारे केस बंद कर दिए जाएंगे। और ना सिर्फ इतना, मनीष सिसोदिया जी को ऑफर दिया जाता है कि जिस तरह से महाराष्ट्र में हमने शिवसेना के ही एक ब्रेकअवे एमएलए को मुख्यमंत्री बना दिया, तुम भारतीय जनता पार्टी में आ जाओ, अपने साथ एमएलए लेकर आ जाओ, हम तुम्हें दिल्ली का मुख्यमंत्री बना देंगे। ये कोशिश कर रही है भारतीय जनता पार्टी। लेकिन मैं भारतीय जनता पार्टी से कहना चाहूंगी कि आम आदमी पार्टी एक कट्टर ईमानदार पार्टी है। आप बाकी एमएलएज को, एमपीज को, नेताओं को, पार्टियों को क्यों तोड़ पाए? क्योंकि शायद उन्होंने भ्रष्टाचार किया होगा, शायद उन्होंने पैसा खाया होगा, इसलिए वो आपकी ईडी की एफआईआर, सीबीआई की एफआईआर और इन एजेंसी की धमकियों से डर गए और आपकी पार्टी में आके शामिल हो गए। लेकिन आम आदमी पार्टी और उसके नेता कट्टर ईमानदार हैं। ना आज तक हमने एक पैसे का भ्रष्टाचार किया है, ना एक पैसे का भ्रष्टाचार करेंगे। तो चाहे धमकियां हो, चाहे लुभावने के प्रयास हो, आम आदमी पार्टी उसमें आने वाली नहीं है। मनीष सिसोदिया जी ने सीधा जवाब दिया भारतीय जनता पार्टी वालों को कि मैं कट्टर ईमानदार हूं, मैं भारतीय जनता पार्टी जैसी भ्रष्ट पार्टी में जाने का सोच भी नहीं सकता। मैं अरविंद केजरीवाल का सिपाही हूं और मुझे पता है कि अगर देश में एक नेता है जो भारत को, दुनिया को नंबर 1 पर लेके जा सकता है तो वो अरविंद केजरीवाल है। तो चाहे आप मुझे जेल में डाल दो, चाहे आप ईडी का केस कर दो, चाहे आप सीबीआई का केस कर दो, मैं आम आदमी पार्टी छोड़ने वाला नहीं हूं। भारतीय जनता पार्टी का ये मोडस ऑपरेंडा है। भारतीय जनता पार्टी की ये वॉशिंग मशीन सिर्फ पहली बार यहां पे नहीं चलाने की कोशिश है। ये तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी का एक ट्राइड एंड टेस्टेड फॉर्मूला है। जहां पे देश भर में अलग अलग पार्टियों के नेताओं को वो धमकियां देते हैं, ईडी के केस शुरू कराते हैं, सीबीआई के केस शुरू करवाते हैं, फिर उनके साथ डील हो जाती है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी में आ जाओ, भारतीय जनता पार्टी की वॉशिंग मशीन में धुल जाओगे, भारतीय जनता पार्टी की वॉशिंग मशीन में धुल गए तो उसके बाद सारे केस खत्म। इसका सबसे बड़ा एग्जाम्पल आसाम के मुख्यमंत्री हेमंत बिस्वा शर्मा हैं, जिन पर 2010 के वाटर स्कैम का केस चल रहा था। उन्होंने भारतीय जनता पार्टी को 2015 में ज्वाइन किया, आज भारतीय जनता पार्टी के आसाम के मुख्यमंत्री हैं। आज वाटर स्कैम का नामो निशान खत्म हो गया। आज वाटर स्कैम की कोई बातचीत नहीं, कोई इन्वेस्टिगेशन नहीं, कोई रेड नहीं। बेल्लारी के रेड्डी ब्रदर्स, जिनका नाम पूरी देश की हेडलाइन में छाया रहता था, जिनके 2006 से 2011 के 16,500 करोड़ के स्कैम सामने आए, सीबीआई उनके पास तो कभी नहीं गई, क्योंकि वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी से शुरू से जुड़े हुए हैं। नारायण राणे, जिन पे 2016 में मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग के केस, लैंड स्कैम के केस, सीबीआई और ईडी ने उन पर केस किए। 2019 में उन्होंने भारतीय जनता पार्टी ज्वाइन कर ली। आज भारतीय जनता पार्टी से राज्यसभा के सदस्य हैं। भारतीय जनता पार्टी की वॉशिंग मशीन में साफ हो गए। सीबीआई और ईडी ने सवाल जवाब करना बंद कर दिया। सीबीआई और ईडी ने रेड करनी बंद कर दी। बीजे पांडा, जिन पर मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग के और वायलेशन ऑफ फॉरेन एक्सचेंज मैनेजमेंट एक्ट के केस हुए फरवरी 2019 में, जैसे ही केस हुए तुरंत उनके पास ऑफर आया भारतीय जनता पार्टी ज्वाइन करने का। 2019 में उन्होंने भारतीय जनता पार्टी ज्वाइन कर ली। भारतीय जनता पार्टी की वॉशिंग मशीन में साफ हो गए। सीबीआई और ईडी ने केस बंद कर दिए। सबसे फेमस शुभेंदु अधिकारी, जो भारतीय जनता पार्टी के अनुसार पश्चिम बंगाल में होने वाले भ्रष्टाचार की पराकाष्ठा थे। शारदा स्कैम के नाम पर तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी में कई चुनाव लड़ डाले बंगाल में। 2020 में शुभेंदु अधिकारी जी को भी ऑफर जाता है कि आ जाइए, भारतीय जनता पार्टी के वॉशिंग मशीन में साफ हो जाइए। शुभेंदु अधिकारी, जो भ्रष्टाचार की पराकाष्ठा माने जाते थे भारतीय जनता पार्टी के अनुसार, ज्वाइन करते हैं भारतीय जनता पार्टी और आज भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लीडर ऑफ ऑपोजिशन है। ये लिस्ट चलती जा सकती है। हमारे पास ऐसी दर्जनों नेताओं की लिस्ट है जिन्होंने भारतीय जनता पार्टी ज्वाइन कर ली। अब कुछ भारतीय जनता पार्टी के खास ऐसे नेता हैं जो कह भी देते हैं। महाराष्ट्र के एक एमएलए कांग्रेस से आए भारतीय जनता पार्टी में, नारायण पाटिल, पब्लिक में आके कह देते हैं कि जी जब भारतीय जनता पार्टी में आ गया हूं तो चैन की नींद सो पाता हूं, क्योंकि अब मुझे पता है कि मेरे ऊपर कोई भी इंक्वायरी होने वाली नहीं है। तो यही कोशिश जो भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने अपनी वॉशिंग मशीन फॉर्मूले से देश भर में करी है, महाराष्ट्र में करी है, उड़ीसा में करी है, पश्चिम बंगाल में करी है, मध्य प्रदेश में करी है, आज भारतीय जनता पार्टी उसे दिल्ली में भी करने की कोशिश कर रही है। लेकिन भारतीय जनता पार्टी और प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी याद रखें कि आम आदमी पार्टी एक कट्टर ईमानदार और कट्टर देशभक्त पार्टी है। आप हमें डरा लो, आप हमें धमका लो, आप हमें जेल भेज दो, हम आपकी धमकियों से डरने वाले नहीं हैं। हमें अपनी ईमानदारी पे भरोसा है। हम राजनीति में इस देश की सेवा के लिए आए हैं, ना तो हम आपकी धमकियों से डरने वाले हैं और ना ही आम आदमी पार्टी का कोई नेता आपके कितने भी लुभावने ऑफर हो, ना वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी में जाने वाले हैं। हम मरते दम तक इस देश की सेवा में आम आदमी पार्टी और अरविंद केजरीवाल के साथ लगे रहेंगे। धन्यवाद।
मीडिया इंटरेक्शन है सुबह से, नाम क्यों नहीं आप लोग खुलासा कर रही हैं? पब्लिक डोमेन में नाम क्यों नहीं रख रही हैं?
मैम नाम भी या मैसेज भी कुछ तो दिखाइए, हमें पता चले क्या किस माध्यम से कैसे आया है, कैसे अप्रोच किया, कब किया गया?
देखिए, ये अप्रोच पिछले ही कुछ दिनों में किया गया है, ये मैं आपको बता सकती हूँ। और उसी व्यक्ति ने अप्रोच किया है जिसने शुभेंदु अधिकारी को, मुकुल रॉय को और हेमंत बिस्वा शर्मा जी को और बीजे पांडा को अप्रोच किया था। सेम व्यक्ति है। तो आप बीजे पांडा से और शुभेंदु अधिकारी से जाके पूछ सकते हैं, जो सेम व्यक्ति जिसने उन्हें अप्रोच किया था और जिसको भारतीय जनता पार्टी की तरफ से जिम्मेदारी दी गई थी उनको भारतीय जनता पार्टी में लाने की, उस सेम व्यक्ति को मनीष सिसोदिया जी को अप्रोच करने की जिम्मेदारी दी इन द लास्ट फ्यू डेज। शुभेंदु अधिकारी, मुकुल रॉय, बीजे पांडा और हेमंत बिस्वा शर्मा। आप भी जानते हैं और हम भी जानते हैं कि वो कौन व्यक्ति है।
Ma'am, the links has been connected to Telangana also now. Kavitha coming out and saying that this is to malign our image. What does AAP say on it?
देखिए, मैंने कल ही कह दिया था कि जो भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नेता हैं आजकल और उनकी जो प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंसेज हैं, उनको तो देख के बॉलीवुड के स्क्रिप्ट राइटर्स को भी शर्म आ जाएगी। क्योंकि देखिए, आप जब बॉलीवुड के स्क्रिप्ट राइटर हैं तो आप बिना किसी फैक्ट के, बिना किसी आधार के, बिना किसी प्रूफ के कोई भी बात कह सकते हैं, कोई भी नेटफ्लिक्स का एपिसोड लिख सकते हैं। लेकिन अगर आप एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी के नेता हैं और कोई आरोप लगा रहे हैं तो कुछ तो आधार रखेंगे। आप बिना किसी आधार के, बिना किसी डिटेल के कभी भी कोई बात कह देंगे तो क्या कहा जाए। अच्छा, उनकी दूसरी समस्या ये है कि उनको पहले एक स्क्रिप्ट दी जाती है, वो 2-3 हफ्ते चलती है, फिर पता चलता है ओहो हो ये तो सारी स्क्रिप्ट गलत थी, इसमें तो कोई भ्रष्टाचार नहीं है, ये तो सब कुछ ड्यू प्रोसेस से हुआ है। तो फिर उन बेचारों को भी रोज रोज कोई नई स्क्रिप्ट निकालनी पड़ती है। तो ये कोई आखिरी स्क्रिप्ट नहीं है उनकी, जो उन्होंने कभी चलाएंगे वो नई स्क्रिप्ट। और पिछले 7 सालों से वो अलग अलग भ्रष्टाचार की कई स्क्रिप्ट लेके आए हैं। तो वो चाहे जिस चीज पे अपनी इन्वेस्टिगेशन कर लें, वो एक्साइज पॉलिसी पे कर लें, वो बसों पे कर लें, वो स्कूलों पे कर लें, वो दवाइयों पे कर लें, वो फ्लाईओवर पे कर लें, वो सड़कों पे कर लें, वो मोहल्ला क्लिनिक पे कर लें, वो आम आदमी पार्टी के हर डिपार्टमेंट की हर पॉलिसी पे इन्वेस्टिगेशन खोल लें, ये हमारा दावा है कि 1 पैसे का भ्रष्टाचार उनको नहीं मिलेगा। लेकर आ जाए रोज रोज भ्रष्टाचार की नई स्क्रिप्टें। आम आदमी पार्टी एक कट्टर ईमानदार पार्टी है, हमें अपने काम पे भरोसा है, हमें अपनी ईमानदारी पे भरोसा है।
आरोपों को स्क्रिप्टेड बता रही है और बीजेपी, आम आदमी पार्टी बीजेपी के आरोपों को स्क्रिप्टेड बता रही है। बीजेपी उल्टा आप लोगों को ये कह रही है कि ये सब स्क्रिप्टेड है, इस तरह से कोई ऑफर गया नहीं।
देखिए मैं इसमें आपको एक इसमें
आपने बोला 2 दिन पहले संपर्क किया गया, 2 दिन पहले
मैं कह रही हूँ कि पिछले ही 2-3 दिनों में संपर्क किया गया।
के बाद
मैं आपको इसमें आपको एक तरीका सुझा सकती हूँ कि किसके आरोप सही हैं और किसके आरोप गलत हैं, इसको कैसे जांचा जाए। आप दोनों पार्टियों का इतिहास उठा के देख लीजिए, आप आम आदमी पार्टी का इतिहास उठा के देख लीजिए, वो हम पर रोज नए स्क्रिप्ट से भ्रष्टाचार के आरोप लगा रहे हैं। पिछले 7 साल में आम आदमी पार्टी के नेताओं पर, एमएलए पर, मंत्रियों पर अब तक 150 केस हो चुके हैं। 150 केस। उसके अलावा केंद्र सरकार द्वारा गठित एक असंवैधानिक शुंगलू कमेटी 6 महीने तक दिल्ली सरकार की 500 फाइलें लेकर बैठी रही। क्या इनमें से किसी भी केस में उनको कोई भ्रष्टाचार मिला? क्या इनमें से किसी भी एक केस में वो कन्विक्शन कर पाए? नहीं कर पाए। तो इतिहास बता रहा है कि आम आदमी पार्टी पर भ्रष्टाचार के आरोप लगते हैं, लेकिन उसके बाद वो सारे केसेस कोर्ट में पहुंचकर जज फटकार लगाते हैं सीबीआई को, दिल्ली पुलिस को कि भाई तुम्हारे पास सबूत नहीं था तो तुमने एफआईआर कैसे फाइल कर दी। दूसरी ओर मैंने आपको भारतीय जनता पार्टी की भी वॉशिंग मशीन की हिस्ट्री बता दी कि किस तरह से जिन नेताओं पर पहले सीबीआई के केस होते हैं, ईडी के केस होते हैं, इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट के केस होते हैं, फिर वो जादुई तौर से शामिल हो जाते हैं भारतीय जनता पार्टी में, फिर वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी की वॉशिंग मशीन में धुल जाते हैं और फिर सीबीआई केस भी बंद, ईडी केस भी बंद। तो आप दोनों पार्टियों का इतिहास उठा के देख लीजिए तो दूध का दूध, पानी का पानी हो जाएगा कि यहाँ पे वास्तविक तौर में चल क्या रहा है।
We're getting some breaking news. That's why cutting out of that press conference by Atishi. Now, Russia seems to have apprehended a terrorist who was planning to travel to India to commit a high-profile terrorist attack. This was a planned terrorist attack against what they are calling one of the high representatives of the ruling circles of India. This is a massive claim, a big one there being made. Russia seemed to have apprehended this terrorist. He, in fact, allegedly was planning to travel to India to commit what they are calling a high-profile terrorist act, and they are also saying that this was against one of the high reps of the ruling circles of the country. Abhishek Jha, my colleague, is joining me on the broadcast for this big breaking development that we are tracking on CNN News 18. Abhishek, what more details do you have? This is a big revelation that's coming to light.
Yes, today morning only Russian agencies, federal agencies have declared that one person who has apparently expressed his allegiance with ISIS and who was recruited in Turkey, he was supposed to carry out a major terrorist attack on some ruling elite in India. It is believed that the person who has been apprehended has been trained as a suicide bomber, and the modus operandi seems to be that he had to fly to Russia, get his all documents in place, and then from Russia he was supposed to come to India, and where he was supposed to do that terrorist activities. But in due time, he has been apprehended by the Russian agencies, and this is reported by Russian news agency Riva Novosti that the person has been very well arrested. Not been divulged by the agencies right now, but we can assume that in federal agencies of Russia, they have arrested a person who has expressed his allegiance with ISIS, and he was about to conduct a major terrorist strike in India and to some high-profile target individuals. Then probably that situation has been averted. We'll also have to see how the Indian agency will get in touch with the Russian agencies, because it looks like the target, though the terrorists had been apprehended in Russia, in Moscow, but the target was very well of India. We know that just recently, like last week only, India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval was in Moscow, where he had also met the Russian National Security Advisor Patrushev, and both had talked about the regional and global issues of security. And we know that India has always expressed its security concerns, especially in the wake of fallout of Afghanistan and the harboring of terrorists and the linkages that Afghanistan have, the past linkages that Afghanistan's current ruling dispensation has with various other terrorist organizations. And it has always expressed its apprehension that those networks can very well reignite itself, and they can be a very a worrisome situation for India. And when Mr. Doval was with his Russian counterpart, they did talk about the emanating threats from all the issues of the recent events that happened in the neighborhood.
Right, Abhishek, I'd also like to understand, now that Russia has detained the suicide bomber, what is the next step that is going to actually happen from the Indian authorities? What goes on from here on? Because this is a big development, and if at all the target was a ruling elite in the country, this is massive.
It looks like the very initial information that has been that is actually coming out has been that the person has been nabbed in Moscow, and in the initial probing, it has been revealed that his target was not Russia. Russia was just a pathway for him, and he was supposed to come to India with all the documents that were about to be furnished in Russia, and probably that was to cover his trail and to be less suspectful by the Indian agencies, because he was coming from Russia, and there has not been any established link of people traveling through Russia and coming to India and conducting any major terrorist strike. So probably this was the safest route that the person could have chosen, and he had chosen this. Thankfully, it looks like that in due time, Russian agency has been able to apprehend this person, and this major strike has been averted. We have to see whether the Russian agencies have still contacted the Indian counterparts, or the Indian counterparts or the Indian security agencies are in touch with Russia. More details on this issue will be coming up in the next few hours.
All right, Abhishek, thank you so much for joining us. This is a big development that we are attributing to sources from the Russian authorities, where Russian authorities seem to have apprehended terrorists whose plot was to target one of the high-profile executives in India. And the trail that he took was from Turkey to Russia, and that's where the suicide bomber was apprehended. I'm also now joined on the broadcast by Mr. Patikrit Pain, who's a security analyst. Also joining me is Mr. A.K. Sivash, who is a defense expert. Mr. Patikrit, I'll come to you first. Your first reactions on this big breaking news input that we are getting on CNN News 18. This is a high security risk that we're talking about over here.
Well, I think it's a very, very alarming situation, and I think I congratulate the Russian agencies for arresting the person. I think the reason why the Russians have been able to arrest this person, who is supposed to be somebody of Central Asian origin, is because in the entire spectrum of Central Asia, Russia continues to have major, intelligence influence in terms of, its own people being present over there for intelligence gathering, and that's one of the reasons. And
okay.
Islamic State continues to be a major threat, not just for India but also for Russia, especially because one of the prime reason for which Islamic State was destroyed in Syria was the Russian, influence and the Russian intervention in that place. Islamic State's, entire modus operandi after they're being defeated in Syria has been to send its cadre back to their home state and asking them to do jihad in those places. But it's generally been people of their own country doing it over there. It's a new kind of a development where somebody of a Central Asian origin trying to come to India to do an attack, which is a new trend altogether. And if it is so, then it's a very, very dangerous situation. I think there is a growing synergy between Russia and India in terms of anti-terrorism intelligence sharing, as well as working on lines in making sure that the countries protect each other, especially because during the Ukraine crisis, India has stood strongly and firmly by Russia. So I think it only shows the level of threat that India's political leadership is right now facing from terrorist organizations, and it's all the more reason to be far more careful about it. So it also vindicates that the threat of terrorism which is emanating or coming to India is not just from Pakistan alone, but it is across the spectrum of Central Asia, where the IS influence is actually making some of the elements think of coming to India and do something devastating act. We have to be far more, careful when it comes to internal security, which is becoming a major headache now, much more than a conventional wars possibility.
Right. All right. Major General Sivash, I'd like to bring you in over here. Do you think this was an advantage that India got because of the route that this particular suicide bomber decided to take? Remember, he has allegiance, or swore his allegiance to ISIS. So now that he's been nabbed in Russia, and because, like Patikrit was mentioning, that Russian intelligence in Central Asia is really good, because of which they were able to nab this particular person here.
No doubt. There's no doubt about it. See, the Russian agencies are very active, and they were able to nab him before this Islamic State terrorist would come from Russia to India. You see, so the issue is that from Turkey, he had traveled to Russia and then possibly would have traveled to India. Once he traveled to India from Russia, the chances of suspecting was very less. So very cleverly, he has picked up this route. But, one will sort of say kudos to the Russian agency. They could preempt it, they could get some intelligence, and they could nab him. And this is a very important thing. My point is we have to be very alert that not only internally Islamic State is becoming very active in the southern part of the country, also certain Islamic State modules trying to come to India through various routes. It is also through Bangladesh, through Nepal, also the reports are coming, and obviously they are coming from Central Asian state, coming from East Europe, because Islamic State is truly become an international terrorist organization like Al-Qaeda. And it's a big threat. The element of the day is a coordination of intelligence all around the world. Like-minded countries must coordinate with each other. That's the only way we can nab, because it's an international terrorism which do not understand any boundary. And India is in the forefront, and India is a target. So therefore, kudos to the Russian intelligence. They could preempt, they could really arrest it. They had this intelligence. But I say that Islamic State is a threat, and it is going to increase in time to come. And especially from the Muslim world, from Central Asian states, and then picking up a route which is, when they land in India, anyone coming from Russia is not suspected as much as someone coming from basically from Islamic State. Okay. So having said so, it's a very encouraging step taken by the Russian, but India must put the guard up, and this challenge is multifold, not only internal but the external also.
Right. Pathikrit, what would be the next step for Indian authorities after this person has been nabbed in Russia?
In the next immediate step would definitely be, a team going to Russia to interrogate that person, to find out as to who funded this person, where was this person trained, who are his mentors, and what all other, if there is an entire trail, or if he was acting on his own, or whether there was a team. And if there is a team, then where are those people present? So I think a thorough investigation would take place. Whether his trial will happen in India or Russia, that is to be seen. That is a different question altogether. But I think it adds a new dimension, as I stated, to the whole threat from Islamic State, because initially, as of yet, Islamic threat, the threat from Islamic State organization always used to be from local elements attacking their own country's institutions, rather than elements coming from other countries. So this, not only this, in addition to what Major General Siwach mentioned, I also want to add to the fact that while Indian authorities have done a lot in terms of bolstering the internal security architecture, one area where we need to do a lot is in the Indo-Nepal border, which is totally an open area. There is no fencing, and in many cases, they just sneak into that through that region. So there is a strong possibility, while this person has been caught, and there will be much more alert now on this route. Somebody can just land in Nepal, sneak in through the Indo-Nepal border to wreak havoc in this country, and it has been done innumerable times in the past by ISI and other elements. So I think fencing of Indo-Nepal border, taking a very strong step on illegal immigrants coming through that Indo-Nepal border, is very, very important. While we have given a lot of attention on Indo-Bangladesh border and Indo-Pakistan border, this Indo-Nepal open border is becoming a major headache. So I think an entire gamut has to be thought about. First, investigation of that person, why this specific route, and whether they are looking for alternate routes, and if at all the land routes through which they can come again is a major headache. Remember, we must not forget, it was only a few days back a boat was found with a consignment of AK-47s, which was found across Bombay shore. And if you look at it that way, there are major threats coming up. So I think the Indian agencies will now look at it as to whether there are new routes, new alternatives that are being explored by the terror organizations, and if it also how to plug those areas.
Right, but the very important point that you're making, and especially this Nepal-Bihar border that we are talking about, this was an exclusive ground report that even we brought for our viewers on CNN News 18 on how porous are these borders, and of course they are continuing to be a massive threat for cross-border infiltration. And this seems to be a big development that we are also getting. And this route, this ISIS terrorist seems to have been nabbed in Russia. The route that he took was from Turkey to Russia to enter into India. Now this is a big development. Also joining me on the broadcast on this big story on CNN News 18 is defense expert Lieutenant Colonel Atul Holkar. Colonel Holkar, the fact that we have got this intel, Russians have apprehended this ISIS terrorist, the attack was on India. This is massive. Your first reactions on this?
Yeah, so one thing that is good is that at least India has friends across the globe, and there is a good amount of int sharing that is happening. But the point of concern still remains that we have enough of I would say a terrorist network being supported by the enemies of India. They also have an international network for doing so, and it is much easier to supply as much amount of money as you would like to, and do certain activities in India without actually confronting India directly, whether on the eastern front or the western front. And I will take it from the previous speaker when he talks about illegal immigrants, and it's a big threat to India, not only for the demographic changes that are happening along the border of India, but the seriousness of the political patronage which these people are getting. And it is so easy for these kind of people to come and just get into one of these illegally run madrasas, or where these kind of people are staying, and they're getting local support. So it is very, very important for India to be very vigilant and have more friends. And these things, I don't think it's an exception. It is going to be a norm, because when you start failing at the border and you're unable to infiltrate through the western border for LC or LOC or anywhere, even the Chinese are equally frustrated because we have not allowed them to move beyond an inch, which initially they did. So these kind of activities will happen. We need to be very, very vigilant. I only hope the local police and local intelligence network remains strong and becomes better in picking up the data to manage these people.
Right. Major General Sivash, I'd like to bring you in here. First of all, I'd like your expert advice on the kind of route that this ISIS terrorist really took. We wanted to understand the why of it. If you can help our viewers understand why from Turkey did he go to Russia and then try to enter into India, and the threat, which is the high offices in political circles in the country.
The point is 2, 3, 4. See, one thing is that when this Islamic State terrorist is coming, if they are coming on high potential countries which are already on a watch list, so the Indian agencies are very alert. But if a person is coming from a friendly country, Russia, so the point is that you will not be that much alert, and that is what he wanted to make use of it. It is fortunate enough that the agencies were proactive and they nabbed him in Russia itself. But one point we have to be very, very alert and alive, that the threat is twofold. One is it is emanating from all around Indian borders. Islamic State is truly international terrorist organization, and India is on their radar on a hit list. So we have to be very alert, especially the countries which are bordering us, the land border which is there and which is porous. Like very clearly brought out, Nepal is one, Bhutan is another one, Bangladesh to some extent is also still there, Myanmar is there. So our agency has to be very, very alert. The second point which within our country we have to be bothered is that there is a sort of a sleeper cell and overground workers which are functioning. We have to get the complete net, because they are still active, they are still alert, and you find if a terrorist comes inside India, he gets a lot of support from that. So this we are able to target this bigger game plan of the terrorist. And third thing is that in such type of operation, you need international cooperation. Once the terrorists are coming from outside India, India itself can't do anything. If you have int sharing like what happened with Russia, then it is always very good. And let me tell one thing, that terrorism it does not know any boundary. Right. And in case if terrorism has to be curbed like Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, all countries have to basically coordinate and cooperate. And then only we can defeat terrorism. Right. Otherwise, you'll find it, such things keeps on happening.
Absolutely.
But to our good luck,
I'd like you to come in here. Do you question the route that's been taken by the ISIS terrorists in this particular case, considering Russia is, on high alert with the kind of, cross-border tensions that Russia has currently with Ukraine? Do you think that this route really becomes crucial, and the timing also on this planned attack?
Well, if it may so happen, I'm just guessing that it may so happen that if that person is of Central Asian origin or somewhere in that vicinity, he may possibly have gone back to just meet his family for the last time and before coming. That possibility cannot be ruled out, because if you look at the Russian republics of Chechnya or Dagestan, these are the areas where there is a huge, possibility, or these areas have seen terrorism of the highest order in the past. So whether that person is of Chechen or Dagestan origin or some Central Asian Republic origin, and whether there are relatives of that person living in Russia, that we have to see.
Okay.
The other thing is that, of course, anything, if at all, God forbid, if at all something like that, actually he had succeeded in coming through Russia, and God forbid if something devastating had happened, then possibly there are elements in the world today who are concerned and upset with strengthening of relation between Russia and India, would have planted stories that look, that terrorists came through Russia into India and Russians did not do anything. So that is the way they try to create problems between two strong countries, or some kind of or two countries which have strong alliances. And I think, as also mentioned by General Stewart, that route becomes very unsuspecting for anybody, because for the authorities in India, if somebody comes from Russia. But there is also another thing. Where is the guarantee that the person would have come directly from Russia into India via the air route? He could have simply have landed into Kathmandu and just walked through the open border, which we have kept like that, almost like welcoming anybody. So the fencing of our own borders is the most important priority before we think about anything else, because we have kept the door ajar for anybody to just come in. Every day, thousands of people are coming through the Indo-Nepal border. It's not possible for SSB or any other border guarding force to identify who is a terrorist among them.
Colonel
So
Holkar,
we have a
the fact that we're talking about the target, it's a high-profile target, possibly can be one of the union ministers or the Prime Minister, who knows? So this is a massive security bid that was thankfully busted by Russia now that this ISIS terrorist has been nabbed. You'd like to throw light on the activities that Patikrit was just talking about, on how our borders have become really porous. When it comes to this Nepal route that Patikrit was talking about, this is something that has been a cause of concern for India, continues to be so.
Right, absolutely. I mean, both these speakers have highlighted the current state of the Indian border, though they are trying to improve it considerably. But look at the demographic changes that is coming on to the Indo-Nepal border, the number of madrasas which are being funded from, countries like Saudi Arabia and Oman and various other places. So one has to be very, very concerned. Another thing which I would like to add is, if you look into the Turkish border, the Iraqi and Turkish border is pretty porous, and it's very, very easy in Syria to have a training of that kind and to get a person across to any of these international borders and come out as a foreign tourist or something and just infiltrate through one of these porous borders. And Nepal is becoming a center of concern for us, like it was earlier. Government is taking care, a lot of care, but the local governments of these states need to be equally worried. If you look into the similar situation, just one day back, we had an alert. We have already an alert in Punjab that how Pakistan is trying to infiltrate through that, and there are already few terrorists here. One of the gentlemen also spoke about the boat recovery that has happened.
All right, Colonel Holkar, I'm sorry, I'll have to just interrupt you. We're getting some breaking news at this moment. We have to go to this. This is the High Court in Pakistan granting pre-arrest bail to Imran Khan, and this has happened until 25th of August. Imran Khan seems to have ascertained that pre-arrest bail, and this really bars the authorities from arresting Imran Khan in the case. Abhishek joins me on the broadcast for more on this. Abhishek, some sort of a respite there for Imran Khan, on all the theories of an imminent arrest that he was facing.
Of course, and this is not the respite for only Imran Khan, but in a way, it is also respite for the ruling dispensation, who was actually rattled by the kind of protest PTI workers have arranged and organized across various cities of Pakistan in the wake of imminent, threat of Imran Khan being arrested. We have seen all through the last night the various protests happening at various, major cities: Lahore, Islamabad, Rawalpindi, Faisalabad. There was a huge rally in support of Imran Khan. Also, there was a large, supporters, crowd of supporters around Imran Khan's residence also, camping all through the night. So probably the law and order situation would have been a very difficult thing to control if in case of Imran Khan not getting anticipatory bail. So for another few days, almost like 3 days, there is going to be some political negotiation as to what will be the next step of Imran Khan and how the government is going to do its cornering of his major opponent leader Imran Khan, who has actually become a hero in the last few weeks of his mass rallies that he has conducted across Pakistan against the current Shahbaz Sharif government, alleging them of being an imported government, alleging them of being not able to manage the economic inflation and other aspects of day-to-day life of people. So all the problems that Pakistan people are currently facing have been totally blamed on the current dispensation by Imran Khan, and people are actually buying it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen that huge crowd swelling up in the every rally that Imran Khan is doing in the recent days. So all this, the latest decision of Imran Khan getting an anticipatory bill, we could very well say that this is a sort of 3-4 days of break between the ruling parties and the major opposition leader.
Right.
For
Abhishek,
few
so
more
what are
days.
the options that are there before Imran Khan at the moment? Because the accusations that he had made at the ruling dispensation, the police and the judiciary of really torturing his associates is massive. However, he himself is charged under the anti-terror laws in Pakistan.
So currently we see that there is a lot of political gimmicks that is also playing around from the both sides, because we have seen Shahbaz Gill wailing in pain, and Imran Khan and his party leaders claimed that he was tortured and inhuman acts were meted out to him. However, today we have seen that Maryam Nawaz Sharif, who has been the information and broadcast minister, she has also released some footages where Shahbaz Gill is seen standing and talking to guards in at the hospital. She has also said that the Interior Home Minister Rahmatullah, he will be also briefing about the current situation of Shahbaz Gill. The Imran Khan's last rally, where apparently Imran Khan made some incendiary remarks and where he was booked under terrorist act also, was regarding Shahbaz Gill only, to express solidarity in support of Shahbaz Gill. In that rally only Imran Khan had made those remarks, and he has clearly said that those people who have been behind this unfair trial of Shahbaz Gill, especially he said about this additional session judge, female additional session judge and chief of Islamabad police, that they will be facing music once the power comes back to Imran Khan and PTI party, and they will have to they will be taken to the task. So that portion of his statement was actually construed by the agencies as a something as a threat called for the government officials, and he was booked under the anti-terrorist act. And we have seen that since then Pakistan's Imran Khan's lawyer lobby has been very active. They have applied for this anticipatory bail, and now Imran Khan has got that anticipatory bail.
Right.
So it looks like for another 2-3 years there is going to be some sort of calm in the Pakistan's political scene.
All right, Abhishek, thank you so much for joining us with all those details there. Some respite for Imran Khan as the High Court in Pakistan has granted a pre-arrest bail to him until the 25th of August. I'll leave it at that. Joining you on the other side is my colleague Anusha, who will take the news forward.
Thank you so much for that, Griha. Once again, a very warm welcome. Good afternoon here on CNN News 18. Hello, I'm Manisha Sisodia. Our top focus this hour is some trouble brewing in for Telangana MLC Kavitha. Let's go to that. Now, you've seen the allegations that have come in on Telangana MLC Kavitha, and she's all set to file a defamation suit against Delhi BJP leaders following their allegations on her connection to the alleged liquor scam. The defamation suit will be filed against BJP MP Parvesh Verma and former MLA Manjinder Sirsa. Kavitha will also move court seeking an injunction order against those making all these allegations. My colleague Pallavi will join us in just a bit to get more details about this liquor scam, which has become a huge political face-off between the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP. There were allegations that had come in from certain leaders of the BJP that this MLC is also involved. Kavitha has rubbished all these charges. She said that she's got nothing to do with them, and whoever making these allegations will be taken to task in a court of law. Pallavi with us on the broadcast. Pallavi, over to you. Tell us more about this.
Well, what we are getting the word is that the MLC from Telangana, Kavitha, and also who's the daughter of Chandrasekhar Rao, the Chief Minister, has decided to file a defamation suit, and this is against two BJP leaders very specifically, and basically it's on that allegation which is coming from the BJP that her hand too was very much involved as far as his excise policy, what the BJP calls the scam is concerned. If you remember just a short while...
इनके चर्चे अमेरिका के अखबारों में के फ्रंट पेज पे मनीष जी की फ़ोटो छप रही है, तो मनीष जी अगर कुछ कहना चाहते हैं।
धन्यवाद। मेरे लिए सौभाग्य की बात है कि मैं आज अरविंद केजरीवाल जी के साथ इस दौरे में गुजरात आया हूं और दिल्ली में जिस तरह पिछले कुछ वर्षों में सरकारी स्कूल बहुत शानदार हुए हैं और दिल्ली में हमने प्राइवेट स्कूलों की फ़ीस नहीं बढ़ने दी है, वैसे ही मैं समझता हूँ गुजरात के भी हर बच्चे का हक है कि उसको शानदार शिक्षा मिले, फ्री शिक्षा मिले, और गुजरात के प्राइवेट स्कूलों में पढ़ रहे हर बच्चे का भी हक है कि उसके स्कूल की फ़ीस नाजायज़ तरीके से न बढ़ाई जाए। और ये हो सकता है, इसके लिए 27 साल की ज़रूरत नहीं है, दिल्ली ने करके दिखाया है, केवल 5 साल में ऐसा हो सकता है। तो आज हम गुजरात की जनता से ये अपील करने आए हैं कि जैसे दिल्ली के लोगों ने एक मौका दिया अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को, जैसे पंजाब के लोगों ने मौका दिया है अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को, एक मौका केजरीवाल जी को दें। 5 साल के अंदर अंदर यहाँ के स्कूलों में बहुत बदलाव आ सकता है। यहाँ के सरकारी स्कूल इतने शानदार हो सकते हैं, यहाँ के प्राइवेट स्कूलों की फीस को ऐसे बढ़ने से रोका जा सकता है जैसे दिल्ली में रोका गया।
आपने महाराणा प्रताप पर ट्वीट किया है, तो राजपूत समाज अभी नाराजगी दिखा रहे हैं, आप क्या कहेंगे? और भाजपा की तरफ से भी आपको ऑफर मिला, आपने ट्वीट किया है।
देखिए, ये सारा मसला जो पिछले 2-4 दिन से चल रहा है, ये है ही इसलिए कि अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को काम करने से रोका जा सके, और ख़ास तौर पे क्योंकि गुजरात में अब लोग अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को एक उम्मीद के रूप में अरविंद केजरीवाल जी की राजनीति को देख रहे हैं, तो इनको रोका जा सके, तो इसीलिए ये सारा किया है। और अब मुझे आश्चर्य हुआ जब कुछ मेरे पास में मैसेज आए, कोई मैसेज लिख के आए कि भाई आपको 2 ऑफ़र हैं। एक तो ये कि आपके सीबीआई, ईडी जितने भी आपके खिलाफ मुकदमे दर्ज किए जा रहे हैं, बड़े बड़े केस बनाए जा रहे हैं सो कॉल्ड, इन सबको वापस ले लेंगे, आप अलग हो जाइए और पार्टी तोड़ लीजिए, हम आपको मुख्यमंत्री बना देंगे। तो मैंने बहुत स्पष्ट शब्दों में उसका जवाब दिया, और मैं आप सबके माध्यम से भी देना चाहता हूँ कि अरविंद केजरीवाल जी मेरे राजनीतिक गुरु हैं और मैंने इनसे सीखा है, इन्हीं के मार्गदर्शन में दिल्ली में एजुकेशन में इतने बड़े बड़े बदलाव हुए हैं, इनके विज़न के फलस्वरूप हुए हैं। मैं राजनीति में इसलिए नहीं आया कि कुछ सपना है मेरा सीएम बनने का, पीएम बनने का, कोई कुर्सियों पर बैठने का। मैं राजनीति में इसलिए हूँ कि दिल्ली के और देश के हर बच्चे को बहुत शानदार शिक्षा मिल सके। मेरा सपना ये है, मेरा सपना मुख्यमंत्री बनना नहीं है। तो बीजेपी वालों को मेरा करारा जवाब है, इस पर खुला जवाब है।
अच्छा, केजरीवाल जी जब बात करते हैं एजुकेशन और हेल्थ,
आप पीसी करेंगे।
Well, that was Manisha Sisodia, the Delhi Deputy Chief Minister, facing the heat and an FIR by the Central Bureau of Investigation over an alleged Liquorgate scam. Shifting our focus to some more latest news coming in. We are getting for you, these are the first visual of the apprehended bomber who was detained by the Russians as he intended to make way towards India to carry out an attack, a terror attack. Now, we have blurred those images, of course, for the security reasons, but these are the first visuals that we are reporting. The Russian Federal Security Service had said that they had detained a suicide bomber who is a member of the ISIS terrorist group who was planning and plotting to carry out a terrorist attack in India. Abhishek Jha continues to be with us on the broadcast. Abhishek, tell us more about the details which are emerging.
So it looks like these terrorists have very cleverly decided a fresh modus operandi which could have been very less suspectful, because so far we have never had reported anybody coming from Russia for the very purpose of striking India with their terrorist activities. So this was clearly a very novel idea to get India through Russian airspace probably, or so he had traveled from Turkey to Russia where his documentation was being punished, and apparently after that he was supposed to fly to India where his target was some high-profile ruling elite. So we can assume that some senior political leader in the government was clearly on the target of this terrorist who has been apprehended in Moscow. Azimov is the name that is believed to have been released by the Russian agency. There has been pictures also released of this person. he has expressed his allegiance for this ISIS network. He was very much in contact with the higher authorities, so-called authorities in ISIS through telegram, signals, and various other telecommunication channels. And he was given this task of conducting high-profile terror attack in India. And so from here onwards, the agencies, Russian agencies, since they have nabbed this person and they have released the basic few initial inputs from they have received from this person interrogating this person. So this is clearly worrisome for the Indian agencies, because now not only they will have to try to question that person, that who all were on the target of this terrorist in India, but also they will have to look in their own backyard that if that person would have landed in India, who all were going to be the logistical support for this person, because it looks very unbelievable that this person would have flight to India on his own and would have been able to conduct any major terrorist activity. So there must be clearly some network nexus, some sleeper cell module who have been waiting for this person to reach India, and probably then they would have extended their support or all those logistic arrangements.
Abhishek, could you tell us a little bit more about this apprehended bomber? The fact that he was arrested by the Russian agencies. The reports are also emerging that he's of a Central Asian descent. But what passport or nationality does he hold? You've just put out his name as well. Are there any prima facie details which are available about this individual?
Not very much, because the pictures that we have just seen, his name has been just revealed. Not too many details about his background has been revealed yet, but as we see that initially the inputs were that this person has been nabbed, but now the pictures have been released. So we can assume that as the progression happens in probing the incident and interrogating that person, more details will be out as to who all the high-profile individuals were on the target of this person who is from the ISIS. And this is also a very worrisome situation for India, because ISIS has been active. There has been modules who have been active in India, and there have been raids and arrests for the people who have been part of those modules. But somebody from Turkey traveling to Russia and coming to India in a very targeted manner, this is something that has not been heard of in the past, and so the agencies must be very much on alert after this incident.
Abhishek, can you also highlight for our viewers that the sharing of intelligence information between the Russians and Indians have happened on various things. There is a certain degree of cooperation that happens, especially when it comes to terror activities. There is a global cooperation against the terror networks, which India has been a part of, signatory of, and we have abided by it. What kind of intelligence exchanges happen between Russians and Indian, and how instrumental was this cooperation to nab this terrorist?
So see, interestingly, just last week, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval was in Russia, and he had a bilateral meeting with the other senior officials, senior ministers in the government. But interesting was the meeting with his Russian counterpart, Patrushev, where both sides discussed the regional and global issues. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is known for his very bullish work on keeping India safe and secure from especially threats emanating from the neighborhood. And when we talk about neighborhood, mostly it has been the proxy war that has been imposed on India in terms of terrorist activities. Afghanistan has been one of the major center of terrorist activities in the past, and the current ruling dispensation of Afghanistan has a clear established links with ISIS. Though there has been differences between ISIS and the current Taliban government there, but broadly they have been part of a larger network conspiracy. And in this region also, India has been one of the victims of terrorist activities from ISIS modules in the past also. And this time also, when this ISIS terrorist has been arrested in Moscow, the Indian agencies must be looking after their own information or input that they have as to who all are the person who were supposed to be the part of the terrorist activities as this person was supposed to carry out once he had reached to India. We don't know yet if the Indian agencies have established contacts with their Russian counterparts, specifically talking about this case of the person who has been arrested in Moscow. But we know that India and Russia has been traditionally very closely linked with their defense and partnership and security partnership. Russia has a very strong network of their intelligence in the Central Asian region, and apparently that helped Russia find and nab this terrorist in due time before he could fly from Russia into India and conduct his terrorist activity.
Abhishek,
So probably those Russian
Yeah.
intelligence input that Russia has
Yeah.
in that region has helped Russian agencies to apprehend this person
Sure.
and save a very very disastrous activity that this person was planning at India. Now, Indian agency would probably get in touch with Russian counterparts, and they would
Yes.
try to gather more intelligence input as to who all were behind this person as the organizational structure,
Yeah.
because it looks like the person has clearly established that he has his allegiance with the ISIS network. So
Abhishek,
where did he get training?
can you also talk about two facets? One, of course, is I'm going to take on from what you just said. Would we be allowed under any convention or any protocol that exists between the two nations to interrogate this person, or whatever details come out of this interrogation or this investigation? What kind of rights does India really have for access to this information?
Uh, so clearly, there has not been many stories like this, because the past decades we know that there not has been much extradition concept, but we know that India and Russia, they have been very coordinated with. They have been acting upon this international terrorist module, or the threat perception that has been emanating from international or global terrorist groups. There has been collaboration and support from Russian side to Indian voice also at if you talk about at United Nations Security Council also, or other multilateral platforms also. So we can assume that Russian agencies would be clearly cooperating with Indian agencies when, if in case the Indian side would like to have interrogation or have this person to gather more intelligence input as to who all are the part of the larger nexus, who are actually, or if they are residing in India, and what sort of logistical support he was supposed to get when he would have gotten in India.
All right, and moving forward, Abhishek, as you said that there have been not many cases like this, but talking about ISIS, which is under the focus right now, this terror organization is known to carry out lone wolf attacks in multiple parts of the world, where you have a person who has been indoctrinated, he has been radicalized, given some kind of training, and then he goes into a particular nation to carry out a terror attack. And these lone wolf attacks become very, very difficult to crack for any agency, because we don't know how this individual would have come to India, what kind of links exist in India, what kind of porous border he would have used to get access to the Indian soil.
Clearly, and interesting part is that we have in past never heard of Russian soil being used as a launch pad for some terrorists to come into India. And this is probably the first time that we are hearing such news, that a person has tried in his modus operandi use Russian land as a launch pad from where he would be directly coming to India, or at least the target was India. So this is one of its own kind, the first probably. And so far, the information that we have, that Russian intelligence inputs, because of the strong Russian intelligence input, the person was apprehended by the agencies. In his initial interrogation, he had accepted that he has come from Turkey. He has his loyalty to ISIS. He was trained by them. There has been communication through Signal and other Telegram or other telecommunication platforms with the higher authorities or higher Amir of ISIS. With this person who has been arrested, and his next target was India. He was supposed to furnish his documents in Russia, and he was then supposed to come to India. This process would have not led him to be very much under the radar of any security agency, because we know there has been a lot of people to people traveling between India and Russia. Even in the dead of this COVID pandemic, there was a lot many flights going in between India and Russia. So there has been a lot of students going there, business persons going from India to Russia, and Russia to India, and probably in that shadow of good people to people connect, this person was planning to get into India and conduct that major terrorist strike on.
Abhishek, please stay with us on the broadcast. I also want to bring in Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni into the discussion. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. This terrorist who's been apprehended in Russia, Russians indicate that he was all set to carry out a terror attack here in India, most likely on a leading political dignitary. How do you see this arrest, and what kind of cooperation can we expect from the Russians? More importantly, what kind of alarm bells does it send for India?
Two things. First, of course, the kind of, the relationship that we have with Russia has actually, we have a whole cultural links, and we've had a very nice relationship. And that's one of the reasons why the Russian agency could at least now unless the Russian Federal Security Service hadn't done this, you'd have had this ISIS man recruited in Turkey or Turkish this thing come into India, because obviously you now see around India also the kind of the Al-Qaeda activities or the ISI activities and the ISIS activities, all of them are now slowly and steadily finding their work. And with the Chinese intervention, you find a lot of these activities taking place, because you obviously have China's involvement in Afghanistan, you have China's involvement with Pakistan, you have China's own backyard, Xinjiang, having a problem. And the ISIS by itself is nothing but an offshoot of Al-Qaeda, which has sprung up sometime around 2014, mid of 2014. Yeah. And that is the reason why we find, but I'm glad at least he was nabbed, and that it also shows the kind of, turbulence that is within the country also. So much so that these people are able to find some logistic support within India. They have those sleeper cells working within India. And I think our agencies are also very, very up to it. And we have to be very cyber. Cyber is one thing we really need to watch out, and we keep
I also want to bring in Major General K.K. Sinha into the discussion. Major General Sinha, thank you so much for speaking to us. I'd reiterate that question, that what kind of warning sign does this arrest of a terrorist in Russia by the Russians really indicate for India?
See, this is a very significant development which is taking place and a concern for the security of India. The Russian FSS, Federal Security Service, when they have, actually apprehended this Sidian. He is a suicide bomber, recruited in Central Asian Republic, recruited through Turkey, and Turkey has got a link with Pakistan. And this chap is trying to actually get sneaked in India through Russia. Maybe through the Russian airlines. He wanted to have a destination to India and targeting a top leader somewhere, in India. Now, what is so significant about this development? See, in Russia itself, if you remember a few days back, about 3 days back, Alexander Gilasevich Dugin's daughter, Darya Dugin, she was eliminated into the car bombing outside the suburbs of Moscow. He is Alexander, Dugin is a very, very noted man in Russia. He is Putin's brain. He is he is a war mastermind. This thing has happened. Now, why I'm bringing out and linking up with this to Russian FSS to Indian, top leader. So this is, development, because earlier what was happening in Indian subcontinent in the form of ISIS, whether it is Indian subcontinent, Al-Qaeda, Indian subcontinent, or Khorasan, IS Khorasan getting a foothold in India. These were happening, that was basically targeting, even that time the target was like this. During, they targeted during, even they wanted to have a target during we have our Independence Day celebration.
Yes.
During that time they wanted to have.
Yes.
Now when this is happening, this is very, very, dangerous sign.
Yeah.
Because there is a linkages of China in this. See, you must understand what happened in Japan. Shinzo Abe has been eliminated. Still the things are going on. The way that, what they are trying to do in Taiwan with the top leadership. Now with the Indian top leader, they want to do it because who is targeting what?
Yeah.
Someone, it is not only that you see the linkages has become slightly more broader.
Yeah.
So India has to proactively try to.
And Major General Sinha, as you're rightly saying, the linkages have become broader. These lone wolf attacks which are being carried are very, very difficult and tricky to carry out. I want to go back to my colleague Abhishek Jha, who's been tracking this story. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, Major General K.K. Sinha have got us their expert voices on the show. We'll try and connect with Abhishek in just a bit, but that's one attack that was planned in India and has been foiled by the Russians. Let me quickly check if Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni is with us on the broadcast. Lieutenant General Kulkarni, one of the key things that worry us Indians is the fact that the manner in which things have changed, say in Afghanistan, what is happening in China's backyard, the linkage with China that also Major General K.K. Sinha was talking about, how critical do these geopolitical factors become as far as India's anti-terror policy is concerned?
Absolutely critical. That now, when you talk about the hybrid, you talk of all working, the government, and within the country also lots of activities and lots of it's almost grey zones have almost gone. It's black or white. And in that black or white, these grey zones are functioning very well, and they know exactly which side or how it is working. And hence, we have to be very, very alert. There is no denying the fact that our agencies are alert. We have to be in cooperation and in conjunction working with various international agencies. It is just that we have excellent relationship with Russia. That Russia was able to nab and be able to convey to India that someone amongst the government is on the target of this ISIS chap who's recruited in Turkey. Turkey is trying to find a...
Sir, sorry I'm interrupting you, but it really intrigues me. Lieutenant General Kulkarni, in the recent past or in the history of independent India, have there been instances known where the Russians have helped us in a manner like this? Have they happened more discreetly, perhaps?
The Russians have always been helping India. There is no denying the fact. There is no denying the fact Russians have been helping. Not just so, even in 1971 war, you saw how exactly and how critical help came from Russia. And that is how Bangladesh was created. So there is no denying. And we have historical linkages with Russia. And Russian, I would say the Putin's relationship with Mr. Modi himself, itself speaks, and our own stand on what's going on between Russia and Ukraine speaks of the great amount of kind of excellent relationship that exists between India and Russia and the Indian leadership and the Russian leadership. And that's the reason why the Russians were immediately able to inform that such a and on target is someone as senior within the government hierarchy is concerned. And that is where an alert like this, and we also need to have our cyber agencies up and about, monitoring various kind of information. You had a spy ship of the Chinese come and, harbor at Hambantota. You have a whole lot of these activities going on. So we have to have 24/7 vigilance of what's going on. And excellent. We must thank the Russians for having given us the adequate input. And there are various other agencies also which will be giving us inputs as to what is going on. But we need to have good relationship because in our own neighboring countries, be it Nepal, be it Pakistan, be it Afghanistan, be it Myanmar, be it Bangladesh, be it Maldives, all these countries you find slowly and steadily the Chinese are finding a foothold. You find a whole lot of ISI is finding a foothold, and therefore IS being an offshoot of Al-Qaeda is finding a foothold. So it's a very, very complicated world, and we have to be very, very careful. And we just cannot afford to take any chances. And I must thank the Russians for having informed at the right time as to such a thing is happening. I'm sure the Indian government, Indian agencies also would be aware of what's going on. And especially around 15th August and all these kind of incidents, they're always up and about.
I want to bring in my colleague Abhishek Jha, and then I'll try and get back to Major General K.K. Sinha as well. Abhishek, there was an important point that Lieutenant General Kulkarni was making here, that Russia on the intelligence front, on the security front, has always cooperated with India historically. In the changing geopolitical scenario, China becoming more assertive, the kind of conflict that we have seen in Ukraine, the stand that India took vis-a-vis Ukraine, and with this act of helping the Indians to avert this huge terror attack, what is the message that Russia is sending out? Abhishek.
See, Russia has been a partner of India because, like traditionally, for like 70 years, there has been a lot more dependence of defense, especially in the sector of defense to India. If we talk about the current geopolitical context where there has been so much of talk about Russia and China engaging deeply, and that is having a cascading effect on India-Russia ties. So one should also remember that during all these years, that China was trying to put blockade on Masood Azhar being prohibited under UNSC law. Russia was the country that, despite its Chinese inclination, Russia supported India.
Abhishek, I'm very sorry I have to interrupt you there. I'm just going to reiterate some details that you're getting for us. Now, the detained ISIS bomber has confirmed that he had to travel to India to arrange an act of terror in retaliation, and I'm quoting, insulting the Prophet. This is a big disclosure which is being made. Those are the details really coming in. Has this got to do with that entire controversy that we saw post the statement of a certain BJP leader? That statement was withdrawn, an apology was given. But even here in India, there have been multiple heinous crimes and attacks that have been committed, including beheadings that have happened, dastardly attack on individuals that have happened. Abhishek continues to be with us on the broadcast. Abhishek, over to you. Tell us more about what are the details emerging.
So, of course, it looks like the controversy that erupted after those remarks by the BJP spokesperson and all the firefighting that the party and the government tried to do not only in India but also across various through various of its envoys in Gulf countries and other places. The issue looked like it has died down, but the kind of the person who has been nabbed in Russia, and the statement that he has made that he was trying to avenge all those remarks that were made by a certain person in India. So it looks like the issue has still not died down, and the repercussions are still being felt. This person has been currently nabbed in Russia. We know Russian agencies have said that the person was recruited through Telegram messengers, Telegram and other social media applications where he was regularly in touch with the ISIS people. And he also had a meeting in Istanbul, Turkey, for the very high officials of ISIS, from where he got this diktat of conducting a major terrorist strike in India.
Abhishek, I want to understand, all these disclosures that exclusively you're putting out for our viewers, are the Russians saying it on record, or your highly placed sources are indicating to you?
No, this is a statement that has been put out by the FSB, Federal Security Agency of Russia, who have said that the person has accepted this. We have recently seen the visuals also where Russian news agencies have put out those visuals where the person is accepting that his name is Azmov, and he was there to conduct some sort of a strike in order to avenge the remarks that were made by the BJP spokesperson in the past.
Abhishek, before I go to our guest, I want you to once again highlight for our viewers how critical this catch has been for the Indian security agencies, and also we had the NSA visiting Russia very recently.
So, I mean, clearly the kind of engagement that India is having with Russia, where Indian security advisor, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval went to Moscow and met with his counterpart Patrikov in Moscow. They had a long discussion encompassing wide issues of securities and threats that has been emanating ever since the fallout of Taliban, and how these small fractured network of terrorist organizations are still a threat to India in its neighborhood. And within few days, we see that Russian agencies working on their own intelligence input and nabbing a person who is from the Central Asian region. And the person is targeting a certain individual of Indian ruling elite, and he was on his target. So the high profile person has been probably saved. We'll have to know who all were in the hit list of this terrorist.
Thank you, Abhishek, for getting us all the details. I'll quickly take in a word from Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni and Major General K.K. Sinha, who continue to be with us on this show. Major General K.K. Sinha, this is a huge terror plot that has been foiled. Thanks to the Russians, this man couldn't come here in India. But the fact that this has been confirmed by the Russians, that he was planning to conduct a terror strike in retaliation, and I'm quoting, for insulting the Prophet, a line that has never been accepted by the government of the day. The person who had said this was suspended by the BJP. She herself apologized. However, this entire violence in the name of that statement has taken a complete turn. This is an international terror conspiracy that was hatched.
I think you are very right on this. See, what is pointing? Nipur Sharma might have done it, and there is some sort of which total centralization and a lot of activities basically against what her remarks were. It has already taken place in India and taking place in India every day, more or less every day here. But Salman Rushdie, he has been stabbed in the United States of America after 25 years. See, that is also, what, the same thing is there. They are giving the logic, and some who has done it, they are saying that, he insulted 25 years ago, a standing verses which has come out exactly 30 years ago for insulting the Prophet Muhammad. So it shows, the whole, if you put all linkages together, the way the things are happening, and actually very surprising thing is that, this guy has been recruited in Central Asian Republic. Central Asian Republic, if they are not radicalized. If you know any of these 5 countries, they are not totally radicalized, and they are never, they have given anyone for ISIS. If Turkey is doing it, it is a very dangerous sign. Afghanistan, yes. Central Asian Republic is just, and we never expect, we have got a special relationship with them. If someone is trying to come from there and try to do, something in India, it is very, very serious nature. So it shows how the things are, getting, all over the globe, all over the world now. Again, it died down, but all of a sudden it has started, and it started with a design. it has started with the design. The people inside Indians, in Indian subcontinent. When I say Indian subcontinent, your channel, you have broken me about, and I was sitting with Narasimhan where he has, given that the 3 cluster, which is a huge cluster in Muzaffarabad, totally
the entire
into the
Semanchal
master
region.
cluster.
Yeah.
There also suicide bombers. I'm asking in this cluster, first time you are hearing that the suicide bombers are also there. And this guy who has been recruited, he's a suicide bomber.
Absolutely.
So
and Major General Sinha, I'm sorry I have to interrupt you there, but I want you to stay with us on the broadcast. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, sir, request you to stay with us. My colleague Abhishek Jha reporting all the details. But this is a huge catch by the Russians and a big boost for the Indian security agencies. A terrorist has been apprehended who was all set to carry out a lone wolf terror attack here in India. Most likely he has affiliations to the ISIS, and a top neta in the government, a BJP neta, was on the target. The Russian news agencies and the Russians are confirming that this was also done. The entire purpose of this planned terror attack, was to avenge the insult, quote unquote, that was meted out to Prophet Muhammad. We'll continue tracking all the details and all the developments of this big breaking news right now, slipping into a very short break.
If this sets a precedent for fights within political parties to be settled by courts of law, ultimately, whoever has majority control of a party, he or she should be given the reins of that party.
Priyanka, the BJP has also levelled a very direct charge that it was under your government's direction, with the Delhi CS at the helm, that you wanted to transfer these refugees or illegals into EWS flats.
There a buzz around Bajwa's arrival in London, because this talk of his return early September means that just around the time there is a huge amount of pressure to call for early elections. So will Nawaz Sharif touch down in Pakistan before elections are announced?
My question is, when you mounted an entire campaign and ensured that a corrupt minister resigns, can Kartikeya Singh continue in office?
Beginning on the 23rd of August, ATK Mohan Bagan is also slated to play in September. Amid tensions with China, Taiwan's president thanked the Navy for their efforts.
Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen visited tailors of the island's Navy to thank them for their efforts. She called the pressure they are faced with as indescribable. During the visit, Taiwanese sailors wearing anti-flash gear warned Chinese warships by radio to change direction, saying they had seriously damaged security in the Taiwan Strait. Although the scale of China's drills has reduced, Taiwan continues to report Chinese fighters and warships operating around the island. The island nation has been holding its own military drills in the last couple of days, conducting anti-air drills with missiles and cannons. China claims the democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory and has been holding war drills to show its anger against US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to the island nation.
Russia has deployed 3 new fighters armed with nuclear-capable missiles to its European enclave. Jets are specially modified. These are MiG-31K variants. They can carry the Kinzhal or the Dagger hypersonic missile. These missiles can be armed with nuclear warheads as well that are capable of flying at 12 times the speed of sound. These jets have landed in Kaliningrad, very next to the NATO member Poland. At least 1 person was killed in Russian shelling on the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. 5 missiles hit different parts of the city early this morning, in which several buildings were reduced to rubble. Ukraine's second largest city has been the target of regular Russian shelling since the invasion began, but Russia says it's targeting a concentration of Ukrainian soldiers in the area. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro has come face-to-face with a heckler and tried to snatch his phone. As Bolsonaro spoke to supporters outside his home, one person used his phone to film himself repeatedly shouting at the president. Bolsonaro grabbed the man's shirt while reaching for his phone. Security guards pulled the man away. Amid the recent uptick in COVID-19 cases in China's Xiamen, aggressive testing has been going on, and no one can escape it, not even fish. This viral video shows how authorities clad in PPE kits were inserting cotton buds inside the mouths of fish and swabbing the shells of crabs. While many have ridiculed this move, some are supporting it, saying that it's for everyone's well-being. A BJP worker in Agra was caught on camera abusing police officers.
This video, which was shot by a cop, shows the BJP worker throwing a fit. He not only abuses the policemen but also threatens them. Seeing the video being shot, some supporters of the BJP worker even tried to snatch the cop's phone. After the video went viral, a case has been registered against 15 people, including the BJP worker.
On the occasion of Janmashtami, Dahi Handi festivities returned to Maharashtra after 2 years of the pandemic.
From a 9-tier human pyramid to an all-girls Dahi Handi, to even a Dahi Handi commemorating Chhatrapati Shivaji's legendary confrontation with Afzal Khan. The sights and sounds of the iconic Dahi Handi and Govinda's return to Maharashtra after a gap of 2 years. Politicians also joined in the festivities. And film stars added glamour. Dahi Handi is a festival celebrated with much fervour on Janmashtami.
A 4-story building collapsed in Mumbai's Borivali today. Thankfully, there were no injuries.
This is the moment a dilapidated 4-story building came crumbling down. Panicked bystanders ran for their lives as debris from the building fell on the road and even trees came crashing down. Fire brigade personnel rushed to the spot to check if anyone was trapped under the debris. But thankfully, no casualties or injuries were reported in the building collapse.
And we continue to track that big story. The Russian security agencies have apprehended a terrorist who was all set to carry out a high-profile terror attack here on the Indian soil. Now, these are the details that the Russian agencies have put out, saying that this individual has been radicalized. He belongs to a terror organization. High-profile political dignitaries from the ruling establishment, from the BJP, were on his target. And all indications are, this is what the information that has been confirmed by my colleague Abhishek as well, that this was an act which was done to avenge, quote-unquote, the insult that was meted out to Prophet Muhammad. That's what we are reporting right now. Let's see what are the other details that emerge. But indeed, a huge terror threat, a plot has been averted. My colleague Abhishek Jha continues to report on that story. Major General K.K. Sinha is also with us on the broadcast, and we'll continue getting you all the expert voices. Abhishek, first to you. Could you lay down the basics of the story for our viewers? What is it that the Russians are telling us on record? What does their press release say? In the next few days, what is the kind of cooperation in terms of the information and access to this individual that India can expect from the side of the Russians?
So for our viewers, one person who is from the Central Asian origin has been nabbed by Russian agencies who was believed to be planning a terrorist attack on a ruling person, a ruling elite in India, which is could be like some senior leadership from the BJP, because they are the party who are ruling the currently country. Also, that person has been brainwashed or has been recruited into the ISIS camp through Telegram and other social media channels. He had also traveled to Turkey, where he met senior officials from ISIS, where they commanded him to go to Russia and from Russia to India. And this was the modus operandi that he was supposed to take. And in India, he was supposed to activate this terrorist strike on an individual. He has also accepted in the interrogation by the Russian agencies that the target was any high-profile individual, and also it was in order to avenge the remarks made by BJP spokesperson Nupur Sharma a while back.
Yeah.
We know that it has been a huge backlash, and there has been BJP has actually apologized for that remark. Nupur Sharma was suspended also.
Yeah.
There has also been on summoning of envoys in various countries of Gulf, where India tried to convince them that this is not the stand of government. This was just an individual remark, and that person had been uh, duly punished by the party, and everything has been done to her. But despite the fact that it looked like the issue has died down, but with this current apprehension of this person who has been under the custody of Russian agencies now, it looks like the issue is still simmering within a certain radicalized group of people.
Absolutely.
Also, so far, we don't know yet if the Indian agencies have been contacted by their Russian counterparts, or Indian agencies have tried to reach out to the Russian counterparts.
Okay.
But we know that India and Russia have been very much, deeply engaged when it comes to talking or dealing with the security threats. Last week only, Ajit Doval, National Security Advisor, was in Moscow, where he had meeting with Patrushev, his Russian counterpart, where both discussed about the threats emanating from the current dispensation in Taliban and other parts of India's neighborhood.
Right.
Thankfully, Russia has a very strong network of intelligence in
And
Central Asia.
Abhishek, as you pointed out, the Russians have traditionally supported the Indians. Thank you so much for getting us all the details. I also want to go to some more breaking news, some exclusive information that we are getting right now. Now, CNN News 18 gets you this exclusive information on the bomber arrested in Russia. One of the foreign counter-terror agency has shared this information with India back in June 2022 about the recruitment of the ISIS bomber. This bomber was based in Turkey, and the same was shared with the Turkish administration also. The motive of this terrorist was to attack BJP leaders or associates like RSS. That's the information which is really coming in. Anand Narasimhan with us on the broadcast. Anand, put this into context for us, please.
The biggest input and what we've been able to get here is the fact that there is a counter-terrorism mechanism that is in place, and there is a counter-terrorism cooperation that's in place. Now, remember, just about 2-3 weeks ago, sometime towards the end of June and mid-July, there was a massive internal crackdown on radicals, and within 48 hours, more than 48 people were rounded up with ISIS leanings and very clearly being emboldened and being inspired by the Daesh, and they were in touch with IS operatives through multiple chat rooms these people are having, and across the country, more than 6 to 7 states and multiple locations, these people were rounded up with not just highly incriminating material.
I'm sorry, Anand, I have to interrupt you there. The press conference of Arvind Kejriwal, Delhi Chief Minister, is happening right now, cutting across live.
सब लोगों जो ये लोग प्रोग्राम देख रहे हैं, सब लोगों को मेरा नमस्कार। और पिछले कई महीनों से मैं लगातार गुजरात आ रहा हूँ